Chapter 1589. Hearing Li Haoqian's words, Peng Huamao and the rest were shocked. Then, they found a few elixir pills with 95% compatibility in the bottles in their hands. Morong Yu had refined 10 bottles of elixir pills, and each bottle contained 100 pills. Among these 100 pills, there were 6 or 7 yang profound divine pills that had reached a 95% compatibility. Peng Huamao and the rest were shocked. They all knew that the value of the elixir pills with 95% compatibility had far exceeded all the herbs that they had obtained. If they sold these elixir pills, they might not be worth a dragon phoenix flower, but they could definitely ensure that they could live a comfortable life in a short period of time. Morong Yu could have hidden the elixir pills with such high compatibility and not handed them over. Even if he did that, they would not have found out. However, Morong Yu did not do that. Therefore, Peng Huamao and the rest were even more grateful. They were even more determined to join Shengzhen and follow Morong Yu. Morong Yu, thank you. No words could express their gratitude. Therefore, Peng Huamao and the rest only thanked him briefly. Morong Yu waved his hand and said casually, "You deserve it. After all, I have benefited a lot from it. I have always wanted to get this elixir recipe." As he spoke, Morong Yu returned the jade slip that recorded the elixir recipe to Peng Huamao. However, Peng Huamao and the rest rejected it. If the elixir recipe was sold, it would be sold for a high price. However, Peng Huamao and the rest felt that Morong Yu had helped them too much. Moreover, they wanted to join Shengzhen. They would treat it as a gift for their first meeting. Morong Yu did not reject it. Although he had the elixir recipe in his hands, he did not want it. He did not want the elixir recipe to be spread. It was better to have it in his own hands. Therefore, he urged Peng Huamao and the rest to start breaking through. Peng Huamao and the rest could not wait any longer. They found a room and started breaking through. As for Morong Yu, he took on the role of their bodyguard. However, what surprised Morong Yu was that it had almost been 10 days. Why were there still no movements from those assassins from Star Moon Pavilion? The Star Moon Pavilion was not only an assassin organization that caused people to turn pale at the mere mention of its name, it was also a power that sought revenge for the smallest grievance. It had always been them who killed others, not others who killed them. Once an assassin was killed, the experts of the Star Moon Tower would move out in large numbers until they had taken revenge. Several days passed in a row, and Peng Huamao and the others had all swallowed quite a few 6 yang profound dan. However, what made Morong Yu feel helpless was that these fellows were only a step away from the primal chaos ancestor realm, yet they were still unable to take this step. However, Morong Yu was not in a hurry. Not only did these people have 100 Luyang profound dan, they also had a few pills with 95% compatibility. If they still couldn't break through after consuming all these pills, then they really wouldn't have the opportunity to become primal chaos ancestral saints. **T. After a few more days, Peng Huamao, who was in the midst of breaking through, cursed in his heart. Under normal circumstances, he would need at most 3 days to break through. However, he suddenly realized that the power he needed to break through had exceeded his expectations. In other words, he did not have enough pills to replenish his power. He had even consumed all the pills and treasures that could replenish his power, but there was still not enough power to support his breakthrough. Am I going to fail this time? Peng Huamao felt a little upset. If he failed to break through this time, he would not be able to continue breaking through for a long time. Moreover, the power required for the next breakthrough would be even greater. He did not have the ability to collect so many pills or saint veins that could replenish his power. This guy, is he not strong enough? Morong Yu had been observing the few of them. Naturally, he also noticed Peng Huamao's predicament. Therefore, he waved his hand, and a first-grade saint vein appeared in front of Peng Huamao out of thin air. "Captain, don't say words of gratitude. Hurry up and break through." After saying that, Morong Yu waved his hand repeatedly. Thus, a first-grade saint vein appeared beside Zheng Ro, Jiang Wenqian, and the others. It was not that Morong Yu did not want to give them a higher-grade saint vein, but they did not need such a high-level saint vein. One first-grade saint vein was more than enough for him. Everyone was pleasantly surprised. Although they had not exhausted all the pills and treasures that could replenish their power like Peng Huamao, they were almost done. However, they did not thank Morongyu. Instead, they suppressed their gratitude and focused on breaking through. Rumble, a day later, with the support of the Saint Vane, Peng Huamao finally broke through and reached the terrifying primal chaos ancestral saint realm. Therefore, an extremely vast and powerful aura emanated from his body and rushed out of the room he was in. It soared into the sky and enveloped the surrounding area. Someone has broken through to the primal chaos ancestral saint realm. The phenomenon of heaven and earth caused by the breakthrough immediately attracted the attention of some people. However, those people only glanced over from afar. There were many primal chaos ancestral saint realm experts in Heavenly Demon City. A primal chaos ancestral saint who had just broken through was nothing in their eyes. Before Peng Huamao could retract his power, another person broke through. This time it was the seemingly weak Zheng Ro who broke through. After her, it was Jiang Wenxian, Li Haoqian. Almost every few days, there were people breaking through to the primal chaos ancestral saint realm. It was not a big deal for one person to break through to the primal chaos ancestral saint realm. There were so many saints in the sacred world that it was normal for someone to break through to the primal chaos ancestral saint realm occasionally. However, it was definitely not normal for someone to break through to the primal chaos ancestral saint realm every few days. In less than a month, there were 8 people breaking through to the primal chaos ancestral saint realm in the same place. This was definitely not a coincidence. Those people must have a method or pill to break through to the primal chaos ancestral saint realm. Therefore, during these days, Morongyu and the others were surrounded by many people outside. Among them included some pinnacle forces and even disciples of holy lands. Even if it was a holy land, they could not possibly let a peak primal chaos ancestral saint break through to the primal chaos ancestral saint realm. Perhaps if it was just one person, there was no problem at all. But if it was a large number of breakthroughs, no force in the entire holy world could do it. And if Peng Huamao and the others had that kind of method or pill, they also wanted to get it. Which force did not want their force to become stronger? It would be best if they could unify the holy world. However, although these people all had the same idea, no one dared to barge in. Who knew if there was a peerless powerhouse behind Peng Huamao and the others? If they rashly barged in, they might not even know how they died in the end. Huh? What's going on? After Peng Huamao and the others consolidated their current realm, they left the room. It was just that when they saw the 3 layers of saints outside, their faces could not help but change. There was no need for Morongyu to answer it all. They all knew why those people surrounded this place. It must be because they broke through consecutively. Originally, they were all a little nervous. Although they were all primal chaos ancestral saints, those people outside were all stronger than them. Moreover, the most terrifying thing was the force behind them. Itinerant cultivators like them could not compete with them at all. But when they saw Morongyu's calm face, they heaved a sigh of relief. Morongyu, Holy Master, thank you for your help. Peng Huamao and the others came in front of Morongyu and bowed to Morongyu in unison to express their gratitude. If not for Morongyu, it was still unknown whether they could break through to the primal chaos ancestral saint realm. It could be said that Morongyu had told them all of this long ago. Morongyu waved his hand indifferently. He really did not think much of it. He had helped because he admired Peng Huamao and the others. Otherwise, if it were others, even if they begged him, he would not have helped. Holy Master, we have discussed before. Our common intention is to join Shenzhen. I wonder if Holy Master... Great! Morongyu laughed. He was thinking about how to ask them to join Shenzhen. There was no doubt about the characters of these 8 people. Moreover, they were primal chaos ancestral saints. Joining Shenzhen was a good thing for Shenzhen. Immediately, Peng Huamao and the others were overjoyed and hurriedly bowed to Morongyu. Boom! However, before they could bow down, A terrifying sword light tore through space from the distant horizon and slammed into the house they were in. After an earth-shattering explosion, the house where Murong Yu and the others were in was directly smashed into powder by the sword light. As for Murong Yu, he was exposed to the crowd. There's no big shot. Attack. Seeing that the house was easily smashed into pieces, many experts outside immediately reacted. Immediately, one by one, they stretched out their big hands and grabbed at Peng Huamao and the others violently. As for Murong Yu, no one wanted to grab him because Murong Yu's cultivation level was too low. It was not worth it for them to attack. Moreover, they all knew that with Murong Yu's cultivation level, he would not be able to withstand the aftershock of their attacks and would be directly shaken to death. For a moment, like a surging torrent or a stormy sea, an extremely terrifying power shattered the world and enveloped the entire heavenly devil city. It grabbed an extremely terrifying speed. Peng Huamao and the others instantly turned pale. Their hearts were enveloped by an extremely strong aura of death. Indeed, they had all reached the primal chaos ancestral saint realm. However, many of the people who attacked were at a higher cultivation level than them. Moreover, there were too many people attacking. After a round of attacks, they would be suppressed and killed without any strength to fight back. Soul Storm. Just when Peng Huamao and the others thought that they were definitely going to die, Murong Yu shouted coldly. Chapter 1590. Plop, plop, plop. Before Murong Yu could finish his words, the saints floating in the sky near them began to fall from the sky in droves. There was no sound. At this moment, some experts were shocked to find that their souls had been crushed. Their souls were crushed with one hit. Among these people, there were even peerless experts in the primal chaos ancestors saint realm. In just an instant, tens of thousands of experts had fallen. They took up almost 2/5 of the surrounding people. During this time, more and more people gathered. This number was not a lot. Soul attack. At this moment, even a fool would know why those people were killed. Combined with the cold voice that they heard earlier, which was as cold as 10,000-year-old ice, soul storm. How could they not know that it was Murong Yu who did it? Murong Yu was a soul saint, and a soul saint with terrifying strength. For a moment, all the sages who were attacking Peng Huamao and the others stopped. Each and every one of them looked at Murong Yu with horrified gazes as deep dread flashed across their eyes. Peng Huamao and the others looked at Murong Yu with joy. However, there was also a trace of shock in their joy. Even though they knew that Murong Yu was powerful, Murong Yu was still too powerful. It was beyond their expectations. That's right, the person who killed tens of thousands of sages was Murong Yu. Soul Storm was another group attack skill that Murong Yu automatically learned after his soul broke through to the 5-star level. After Soul Slash, Soul Fist, and Heaven Annihilating Heaven, Murong Yu's 4th soul attack skill. Moreover, Soul Storm's attack range was larger than Heaven Annihilating Heaven, and its attack power was stronger. However, the consumption of soul power was also much greater than Heaven Annihilating Heaven. However, with the soul power in Murong Yu's soul pool that was 20 million miles wide, he could continuously use Soul Storm for tens of thousands or even more times. How dare you attack me, Murong Yu? Murong Yu took a step forward and rose into the air, looking at the people in front of him with an indifferent expression. At the same time, his appearance had also changed back to his original appearance. Murong Yu. It was actually Murong Yu. Originally, those people were stunned by Murong Yu's terrifying soul attack. At this time, after knowing Murong Yu's identity, some people immediately retreated. They did not dare to make an enemy out of Murong Yu. With Murong Yu's current strength, he could easily kill the primal chaos ancestor sage. Most importantly, Murong Yu's classic of mountains and seas contained 1,000 powerful vicious beasts. None of them knew that Murong Yu's 1,500 beasts had been killed by the black-clothed heavenly demoness. Now, there were only 100 beasts left. The threat to them was not as great as before. Everyone, don't be afraid. Although Murong Yu is strong, he is only one person. Moreover, He is not in the classic of mountains and seas now. No matter how strong he is, how can he be a match for us? Moreover, he must have many dragon phoenix flowers on him. Moreover, he is a chaotic, celestial body. As long as we kill him, we may not be able to snatch his body, but even if we can get a dragon phoenix flower or other treasures, we will have profited. Just as the people retreated, not daring to make an enemy out of Murong Yu, a bewitching voice suddenly came from the crowd. Hearing this, many people immediately stopped retreating. Every one of them looked at Murong Yu with evil intentions. Murong Yu sneered inwardly. He locked onto the expert with a soul storm and quickly strangled him. Before he finished speaking, the expert who had spoken earlier let out a scream, and his soul was annihilated. Even the people in a radius of several miles around him were affected and killed in one fell swoop. The power of the soul storm was too terrifying. Moreover, it was suppressed by Murong Yu, and its power was hundreds of times stronger than the first time it was used. Although those people felt the danger, they could not react in time. Whoosh! Seeing this, many people retreated with a whoosh, far away from Murong Yu. Their eyes were filled with horror as they looked at Murong Yu. However, there were also many people who slowly closed in on them. These people were at least chaotic ancestor saints. Moreover, there were mid-level chaotic ancestor saints. They believed that before long, even high-level chaotic ancestor saints would appear. However, there were not many high-level chaotic ancestor saints in the Holy World. There was not one in Heavenly Devil City. It was also because of this that Murong Yu dared to start a massacre here. Otherwise, he would have left Heavenly Devil City long ago. Quickly send the news of Murong Yu's appearance in Heavenly Devil City back to the sect. Let the sect send high-level chaotic ancestor saints to take him down this morning. It must be fast. At this moment, people from countless forces began to send the news of Murong Yu's appearance in Heavenly Devil City back to their forces. They believed that before long, high-level chaotic ancestor saints would appear. Murong Yu die. At this moment, an ethereal voice suddenly resounded in this world. Immediately after, a sword ray shot out from the void not far in front of Murong Yu. It turned into a bolt of lightning and ruthlessly slashed at Murong Yu's head with the speed of a clap of thunder. Poof! Murong Yu did not have time to react at all. His head was already smashed by the sword ray. Then his entire body exploded. However, there was no bloody mist. The person who attacked and the surrounding people's hearts skipped a beat. They definitely did not think that Murong Yu was killed just like that. If it was so easy, how could he still be alive today? As expected, when Murong Yu exploded, another Murong Yu suddenly appeared not far away from the original Murong Yu. The Murong Yu that exploded earlier was merely an afterimage of Murong Yu. Assassins of Star Moon Tower, didn't anyone tell you that I'm the ancestor of space manipulation? You're displaying your slight skills in front of an expert. Do you know that? Murong Yu sneered with disdain. It was true that the assassins of Star Moon Tower were very good at concealing themselves. Even those who were at a higher realm than them would not find it easy to discover them. However, all of this could not be hidden from Murong Yu. In fact, Murong Yu had already discovered that the assassins of Star Moon Tower were lurking in the void and were ready to kill him in one blow. Moreover, Murong Yu was certain that the first to attack would definitely be the assassins of Star Moon Tower. However, what puzzled Murong Yu was why these people attacked him openly instead of assassinating him. Could it be that assassinations were no longer popular among the assassins now, and killing openly was the trend? However, Murong Yu did not underestimate these people. He could sense danger from these assassins. In other words, there was a possibility that these assassins would kill him. As a result, he had always been on guard against these assassins of Star Moon Tower. He did not want to fail miserably at such an easy task. As a result, when the assassin of Star Moon Tower attacked, Murong Yu had already dodged. It was also because of him that he could dodge so easily. If it were any other first or second level chaotic ancestor saint, they would have been killed by the assassin long ago. Hearing Murong Yu's words, the assassin of Star Moon Tower who attacked earlier was furious. One was because he had failed, and the other was because he had underestimated Star Moon Tower. In terms of the ability to conceal oneself, which force in the Saint's world could compare to Star Moon Tower. As a result, this assassin attacked again. Swoosh! Blinding sword light appeared out of nowhere and slashed Murongyu into pieces again. However, what was slashed into pieces was still only Murongyu's afterimage. As for Murongyu, he had already teleported and appeared in a void extremely far away from him. At the same time, he punched out fiercely. Bang! A figure was sent flying out of the void by Murongyu's punch. From afar, the man's face was filled with shock. Even in death, he couldn't believe that Murongyu had actually found his location and killed him in a single blow. In reality, Murongyu did not kill him with a single punch. Before he punched out, he had used a soul attack. Otherwise, he might be able to force him out of the void with a single punch, but it would be much more difficult to kill him with a single strike. After all, if an assassin of Star Moon Tower did not have a protective saint weapon, no one would believe it. And soul saint weapons were extremely rare even in the saint's world. Very few people possessed them. Therefore, soul attacks were definitely a killer weapon. Kill with a single strike. Right at this moment, Murongyu's heart was suddenly enveloped by an extremely intense aura of death. Murongyu's expression changed drastically. He took a step forward and disappeared from where he was. The moment he disappeared, a sword light flashed and immediately slashed the void where Murongyu was originally at into pieces. At the same time, a strand of hair broke off inch by inch and drifted out. Puff! A large mouthful of blood spurted out from the void. Swish! A streak of sword light flashed again. It struck the space where the blood had spurted out and tore it apart. But this time, nothing happened. Murongyu was injured. That mouthful of blood was definitely spurted out by Murongyu. He was injured by the hidden expert. Seeing this scene, the surrounding people were not happy. On the contrary, each and every one of their faces was extremely gloomy, because they all felt the strength of the hidden expert. With their strength, how could they be that person's match? Even if Murongyu was killed, they would not get a share. They only wanted the high-level chaotic ancestor saints in their forces to hurry over. Otherwise, they would not get any benefits. However, at this moment, some people placed their attention on Peng Huamao and the rest again. Murongyu and the rest were all gone, but Peng Huamao and the rest were not cheap either. Peng Huamao and the rest were all peerless experts. They reacted immediately. Suddenly, each of their hearts sank. Chapter 1591. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Rays of stunning sword light that contained incomparable power slashed out from different positions in the void and slashed in different directions. In a short instant, there were tens of thousands of sword lights. Every sword light appeared in a different position. From the aura that these sword lights gave off, everyone knew that these sword lights came from the same person. In other words, the person who attacked had slashed out these sword lights from tens of thousands of different positions in an instant. Regardless of whether it was the speed or the attack power, it was extremely terrifying. It should be a powerful assassin from Star Moon Tower. However, Murongyu's speed was also extremely terrifying. Otherwise, every sword light that the expert from Star Moon Tower had slashed out would have been slashed in different directions. He wanted to kill Murongyu. However, Murongyu did not appear in front of everyone. No one even noticed Murongyu, who was hiding. Bastard! Murongyu's heart was abnormally furious as he rapidly shifted through the air. The assassin from Star Moon Tower had not even reached the level of an advanced chaotic ancestor sage. At most, he was a rank 5 assassin. However, this person's assassination Dao was extremely powerful. When he attacked Murongyu, his body was constantly moving. Because of this, even though Murongyu knew his position, it was not easy for him to attack. Most importantly, although the assassin from Star Moon Tower could not accurately capture his position. However, he roughly knew where Murongyu was. As a result, every slash of the sword landed around Murongyu. Moreover, the power and murderous intent contained in those sword lights were extremely terrifying. Even if they only slashed in the void around Murongyu, they could shake Murong Yu out. Therefore, Murong Yu could only shuttle in the void continuously, and he did not even have a chance to counterattack. Boom! Just then, a terrifying aura descended from the sky like a stormy sea. In an instant, it swept out in all directions like a storm. Wherever the aura passed, many experts retreated. Large patches of the void were shattered. If this continued, Murong Yu, who was hiding in the void, will be shaken out sooner or later. A high-level primal chaos ancestral saint. Everyone's face sank, and Murong Yu's heart sank even more. Only high-level primal chaos ancestral saints would attack without any regard for others. Looks like I'm not too late. Just as this high-level chaotic ancestor saint appeared, another figure descended from the sky and landed in Heavenly Devil City. A terrifying aura erupted, engulfing everything. He fought against the high-level primal chaos ancestral saint from before. The shockwave shattered the void between the two of them. At this moment, the powerful assassin from the Star Moon Pavilion, who had attacked repeatedly previously, did not continue to attack. He chose to hide. After all, this was the nature of an assassin. However, Murong Yu discovered that the assassin was still constantly changing his position in the void. He had never stayed in one place for more than a breath. "Where is Murong Yu? Get out here!" An angry roar came from afar, and an extremely violent aura tore the sky and earth. Everyone saw a flowing light shattering hundreds of millions of space-time and shooting over rapidly. Stella. Murong Yu frowned slightly. This person was an expert from the evil demon tribe, a level 8 chaotic ancestor saint. He had an irreconcilable hatred with Murong Yu. Now, there are already 3 high-level chaotic ancestor saints who appeared here. Murong Yu's heart was extremely heavy, and he had already retreated quickly. If he continued to stay here under such circumstances, he would be courting death. Murong Yu wanted to enter the Hichu Luo Shu, but he realized that he could not enter at all. Previously, when he was attacked by the experts from the Star Moon Pavilion, he had no time to enter the Hichu Luo Shu. Now, it seemed that the void was sealed by a special method. He could not enter the space treasure. "I can't take anything out of the space treasure." Just as Murong Yu's expression changed, someone in the crowd exclaimed. The others' expressions changed slightly. Soon, they realized that they could not take anything out of the space treasure, nor could they store anything in the space treasure. Someone must have secretly used a special method to seal the space. Haha, Murong Yu, don't you have a Hichu Luo Shu? If you have the ability, why don't you enter the Hichu Luo Shu and escape? Stella laughed loudly. It was obvious that he was the one who had sealed off this area of the void with his technique. Murong Yu had killed his son, Senior, so he had always hated Murong Yu. However, he had not succeeded in killing Murong Yu many times. He could not even touch the corner of Murong Yu's clothes. This made him extremely angry. Not long ago, he had obtained a treasure that could seal the void within a certain distance. In the sealed area, no space treasure could be used. It was definitely a weapon to kill. One had to know that as long as one was a saint, their belongings would be stored in spatial treasures. For example, elixirs, sacred weapons, and so on. If they could not use space treasures, their strength would be greatly reduced. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. At the same time, several terrifying auras flew over from afar or stepped out of the teleportation formation in Heavenly Devil City. Without exception, these people were all high-level chaotic ancestral saints. However, there were many high-level chaotic ancestral saints, and their target was Murong Yu. Therefore, they were wary of each other. This gave Murong Yu an opportunity. At this time, Murong Yu was hiding in the void and flying out of Heavenly Devil City. As for Peng Huamao and the others, Murong Yu could not care about them now. Even if they were captured, their lives would not be in danger for the time being. This was because Murong Yu had told them to push all the blame on Murong Yu Chi. It looked like Murong Yu was about to leave Heavenly Devil City. But at this time, a stunning sword light appeared out of thin air, shattering hundreds of millions of space-time and slashing toward the position where Murong Yu was. Boom! At the same time this sword light appeared, Stella and the others also made their move. One by one, they stretched out their large hands and grabbed at the void where Murong-yu was. Bastard! Murong-yu cursed in his heart and shuttled through the void repeatedly, leaving the place. And the moment he left, the attacks of Stella and the others also landed, directly crushing that part of the void. Murong-yu was somewhat puzzled. He did not know how that Star Moon Pavilion's assassin could know his approximate location. Even Stella and the other level 8 chaotic ancestral saints did not discover him. Could it be that he also controlled space law? Murong-yu pondered in his heart, his face full of cold, killing intent. If he could not kill this assassin, Murong-yu would not be able to leave Heavenly Devil City at all. In the end, there was even a possibility that he would be killed because of this assassin. Think of a way to kill this assassin first. Murong-yu pondered in his heart. But how difficult would it be to kill this assassin? There were more than 10 high-level chaotic ancestral saints now. Moreover, as time passed, there would be more and more high-level chaotic ancestral saints appearing here. In other words, Murong-yu would be in more danger, and the chances of him dying would also increase. I can find Murong-yu's location, but we, Star Moon Pavilion, only want Hichu Luoshu and Inyang Cauldron. We are not interested in the rest. If you can agree to my conditions, we will cooperate immediately. Otherwise, once there are more and more high-level chaotic ancestral saints, the chances of you getting Murong-yu will become smaller and smaller. At this time, the assassin who attacked Murong-yu suddenly spoke. Damn you! Murong-yu's face darkened. If they cooperated, he would be in more danger. All right, we will cooperate. Stella and the others immediately agreed. What the assassin said was the truth. Moreover, who would get Hichu Luoshu and Chaotic Celestial Body in the end would still depend on one's own ability. I will send a message to Murong-yu. All of you will attack at the same time. The expert from Star Moon Pavilion said in a deep voice. At the same time, he sent a message to Stella and the others about Murong-yu's current location. Murong-yu, who was shuttling through the void, was shrouded in an extremely strong sense of danger. His shuttling speed became even faster. He almost did not stop his physical body at all. However, the assassin from Star Moon Pavilion had good senses. Although he was always a step slower, the high-level chaotic ancestral saint's continuous attacks put Murong-yu in danger. What made Murong-yu feel the most helpless was that there were more and more high-level chaotic ancestral saints attacking. Now, the entire range of Heavenly Devil City was covered by the high-level chaotic ancestral saints. Moreover, every time Murong-yu wanted to rush out of Heavenly Devil City, he was beaten back. What did it mean to dance on the tip of a knife? Murong-yu was one now. As long as he was not careful, he would be killed. Unrelated people, leave Heavenly Devil City quickly. Otherwise, you will be killed without mercy. More than 20 high-level experts were unable to force Murong-yu out under the guidance of the assassin from Star Moon Pavilion. They were finally angry. Sensing the strong, killing intent of the high-level chaotic ancestral saints, the saints in Heavenly Devil City were furious and unwilling to leave. However, they still left. These high-level chaotic ancestral saints were definitely not saints. They would definitely kill them without batting an eye. In an instant, the entire Heavenly Devil City was empty except for the high-level chaotic ancestral saints and Murong-yu, who was hiding in the void. In fact, Murong-yu also wanted to take advantage of the chaos to leave Heavenly Devil City. However, the assassin from Star Moon Pavilion always seemed to know his location and could predict his actions. He was always one step ahead and blocked his path. This made Murong-yu even more furious. His killing intent towards the assassin from Star Moon Pavilion intensified. Everyone, let us shake Murong-yu out of the void. After waiting for the unrelated people to leave Heavenly Devil City, Stella and the others attacked again. Rumble, terrifying power erupted from their bodies like raging waves. In an instant, it engulfed the entire Heavenly Devil City. Large pieces of the void shattered. Large pieces of buildings were shaken into dust. Chapter 1592. Heavenly Devil City, was huge. However, under the joint attack of more than 20 high-level chaotic ancestor sages, the huge heavenly devil city seemed too small. In the blink of an eye, the entire void of heavenly devil city was enveloped by the power of more than 20 high-level chaotic ancestor sages. Murong Yu was no longer able to conceal himself and was forced out of the void with nowhere to hide. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Just as Murong Yu was jolted out of the void, blood spurted out of his mouth. The 20 or so high-level primal chaos ancestor sages attacked at the same time. Every one of them stretched out their hands and grabbed at Murong Yu. As for their previous agreement, they had completely forgotten about it. They did not want to let go of Murong Yu's body, Hichu, Luoshu, Mountain Sea Scripture, and all the other treasures. However, one should not be too greedy. Some of the 20 high-level chaotic ancestor sages were slower by half a beat. Knowing that they wouldn't be able to obtain Murong Yu, they started attacking the other high-level primal chaos ancestor sages with the intention of not allowing anyone else to obtain him. Everyone, Murong Yu is very cunning. Let's seal him first before we discuss who he belongs to, a high-level chaotic ancestor sage said in a deep voice. More and more high-level chaotic ancestor sages were heading towards Heavenly Devil City. If these high-level chaotic ancestor sages were to fight, they might not get anything in the end. However, if they worked together to take down Murong Yu, they would more or less gain some benefits. Many of the peerless experts present understood this, so they stopped fighting for it. After a discussion, a high-level chaotic ancestor sage went forward to seal Murong Yu. From the beginning to the end, Murong Yu did not escape or attack. It was not that Murong Yu was waiting for death, but he knew that it was useless. If it was just a high-level primal chaos ancestor sage, Murong Yu would still be able to fight them. However, he was definitely not a match for more than 20 chaotic ancestor sages. Moreover, he would definitely resist if he had to use it on a knife. However, he had to find a good opportunity to succeed in one fell swoop. As a result, Murong Yu was firmly sealed. Not to mention his strength, he couldn't even move his body. If it wasn't for the fact that he couldn't seal Murong Yu's soul and thoughts, all of this would have been sealed. Let's leave this place first before we discuss the issue of ownership, a high-level primal chaos ancestral saint said in a deep voice. Stera and the others nodded. Leaving this place was the best way. This was because the more high-level primal chaos ancestral saints came to Heavenly Devil City, the fewer benefits they would get. Thus, one of them wanted to capture Murong Yu and take him away from here. Murong Yu looked indifferently at the high-level primal chaos ancestor saint coming towards him. His eyes were calm. There was no anger, no despair. It was as if all of this had nothing to do with him, and he was just a bystander. At this time, Peng Huamao and the others were also captured by a group of experts. After capturing Murong Yu and the other high-level primal chaos ancestral saints, they didn't even look at Peng Huamao and the others. This was because compared to Murong Yu, Peng Huamao and the others were nothing. Let's go. The high-level primal chaos ancestral saint was captured. Then, under the protection of the other high-level primal chaos ancestral saints, they soared into the sky and were about to leave Heavenly Devil City. None of you can leave. Just then, a faint voice came from afar. Before the voice died away, a figure appeared in Heavenly Devil City. It was as if he had appeared out of thin air. Seeing this person, everyone present, including the high-level primal chaos ancestral saints, was shocked. This was because they didn't know where this person came from or how he appeared. It was really as if he had appeared out of thin air. Old Yonglin? It's the old man? Murong Yu couldn't help but exclaim. The old man's whereabouts were mysterious and elusive. Ever since leaving the cultivation world, Murong Yu could count on one hand the number of times he had seen him. However, every time old Yonglin appeared, it was when Murong Yu was in a desperate situation. And every time he appeared, his strength would shock Murong Yu. This time was no exception. This was because the aura old Yonglin emitted was stronger than anyone present. For example, Stella, who was a level 8 primal chaos ancestral saint, emitted a power light that was like a firefly compared to the sun in front of old Yonglin. With such a huge gap, it meant that old Yonglin was now a level 9 Primal Chaos Ancestral Saint. He might even be a peak Primal Chaos Ancestral Saint. Most people would be greatly shocked after seeing Murong use cultivation speed. And every time Murong you saw old Yonglin, he understood how Fan Tong and the others felt. This was a huge blow. Back then, old Yonglin's realm was only a little higher than his. But now it was more than a little. The gap between them was like a natural chasm. Who do you think you are? A mere old man like you? A level 7 Primal Chaos Ancestor, Saint cursed angrily before taking a step forward and charging towards Yonglin. At the same time, he punched out at Yonglin, intending to kill him with a single punch. A sneer flashed across Murong Yu's eyes. Was this level 7 Primal Chaos Ancestral Saint blind or something? How dare he attack old Yonglin? If this wasn't suicide, then what was? Perhaps he was courting his own death. You overestimate yourself. Old Yonglin sneered. They attacked at the same time. Chi! A dazzling sword light flashed and disappeared before anyone could react. It was like an illusion, but everyone knew old Yonglin had attacked. The reason for this feeling was because Yonglin was simply too fast. But could he really kill that level 7 Primal Chaos Ancestral Saint? Everyone was doubtful. That was because the level 7 Primal Chaos Ancestral Saint was still charging at old Yonglin, maintaining his previous posture. His speed hadn't changed at all. But soon, everyone sensed that something wasn't right. As for what was wrong, they couldn't tell at the moment. In the blink of an eye, the level 7 Primal Chaos Ancestral Saint was right in front of old Yonglin. Just as he was about to slam into old Yonglin, his body suddenly split into two from the middle. The two halves of the peerless expert's body separated automatically, rushing out from old Yonglin's sides and finally falling to the ground. A level 7 Primal Chaos Ancestral Saint had died, just like that. Hiss at this time, even a fool would know what was going on. They all looked at old Yonglin and sucked in cold breaths. Their hearts turned cold. Even high-level Primal Chaos Ancestral Saints like Stella felt their hearts skip a beat. They couldn't see how old Yonglin had killed the Primal Chaos Ancestral Saint. In other words, old Yonglin was strong enough to kill them. Put down Murong Yu and seal your cultivation, or you'll end up like him, old Yonglin said calmly. Stella and the others were startled. He's just one person, and there are more than 20 of us. How can he be our match? Let's kill him together. A high-level Primal Chaos Ancestral Saint roared and attacked. Almost all of the high-level Primal Chaos Ancestral Saints attacked before he could finish his sentence. In an instant, an extremely terrifying force tore through the heavens and the earth, and it shattered a myriad of space-times as it shot fiercely towards Yonglin. Heh! Old Yonglin sneered and attacked again. As a result, two dazzling and blinding sword lights flashed once again. Puffed, puffed. Two streaks of blood, mist, immediately exploded. The high-level Primal Chaos Ancestral Saint who'd attacked first and the one who'd spoken before were smashed into a bloody mist. They couldn't be more dead. Old Yonglin stood motionless and looked down at the world with disdain. Attack again, and it won't be 2, but 4. As for who? Perhaps we'll find out soon enough. The expressions of Stella and the others changed abruptly, and they all stopped their attacks. They didn't doubt old Yonglin's words at all. If they kept attacking, they might be able to injure old Yonglin. However, 4 of them would definitely be killed. None of them wanted to die. However, they didn't want to waste a cooked duck. For a moment, everyone looked at each other. At the same time, their hearts were filled with fear. Haven't I made myself clear enough? Or you? Or do you want to be one of the 4? Old Yonglin's face flashed with anger as he pointed at the 4 high-level Primal Chaos Ancestral Saints. The 4 Primal Chaos Ancestral Saints who'd been pointed had turned pale. I think we should hand over Murong Yu. We're not his match at all. Although the Chaos Celestial Body can make us Chaos Controllers, we need to be alive. I think it's not a bad idea to be a Primal Chaos Ancestral Saint, one of the 4 said in a deep voice. The other 3 nodded slightly as well. Stella and the others had ugly expressions. They knew that person was right, but they really didn't want to let Morong Yu go. However, when old Yang Lin glanced at them, they compromised. Release him. Just as they decided to release Morong Yu, an indifferent voice sounded. It's so lively here. Looks like I made the right choice. Then, an old man appeared out of thin air before Yang Lin. He appeared in the same direction as old Yang Lin, and Stella and the others didn't see how he'd appeared. A 9th rank primal chaos ancestral saint. Stella and the others were pleasantly surprised. Even if they didn't know this person, one of them was bound to be injured when two tigers fought. When the time came, they'd be able to reap the benefits. Isn't this true Martial Sacred Hall's elder ardent son? It's said that he's been a 9th rank primal chaos ancestral saint for a long time. He's a veteran. We're in for a good show. When two tigers fight, one of them is bound to be injured. Everyone's eyes flashed with astonishment. They'd already made up their minds to fish in troubled waters. Chapter 1593. A veteran rank 9, primal chaos ancestor saint. The true Martial Sacred Hall's elder Lai Yang exuded an extremely terrifying pressure that made the entire heavenly demon city seem like it would explode at any moment. Stella, who had originally planned to release Morong Yu and the others, changed his mind when he saw elder Lai Yang. He didn't release Morong Yu. Morong Yu is a traitor of our true Martial Sacred Hall. He belongs to our true Martial Sacred Hall. Do you have any objections? Elder Scorching Sun glanced at Stella and the others, then looked at Yang Lin and said indifferently, "Everyone knows what's going on with Morong Yu. If you want Morong Yu, you'll have to defeat me," Yang Lin said nonchalantly, not fearing the true Martial Sacred Hall at all. No one knew what Elder Lai Yang was relying on. "How dare you?" Elder Lai Yang was enraged. With his status, he had even mentioned the true Martial Sacred Hall, yet Yang Lin didn't fall for it. How could he not be angry? Since that's the case, you can die. Anyone who goes against the true Martial Sacred Hall must die. The Blazing Sun Elder took a step forward. With a sway of his body, he turned into a streak of light that smashed through space, heading straight for old Yang Lin. During this process, he reached out with his large hand, his 5 fingers spread open as he grabbed at old Yang Lin. He wanted to kill Yang Lin with one claw. Yang Lin's face was full of disdain as he attacked again. Everyone saw a flash of sword light. Elder Lai Yang, the veteran rank 9, primal chaos ancestor saint of the true Martial Sacred Hall, grunted and flew back at an even faster speed than when he had come. Elder Lai Yang only managed to stabilize himself after smashing through billions of space-time. However, his face was pale and his expression was ugly as he glared at Yang Lin. However, some powerful people saw the fear hidden under Elder Lai Yang's anger. He had been defeated in one strike. Although he hadn't been killed in one strike, it still shocked everyone. After all, Elder Lai Yang was a veteran rank 9, primal chaos ancestor saint of the true Martial Sacred Hall. Even so, he couldn't block Yang Lin's attack. Involuntarily, the surrounding people quickly retreated. Yang Lin's strength was simply too terrifying. They didn't want to provoke old Yang Lin. Morong Yu's eyes flashed. Old Yang Lin had given him a big surprise. According to his guess, old Yang Lin's strength had probably reached the first step supreme exalt level or even the half-step supreme exalt level. What veteran 9th rank primal chaos ancestral saint? Old Yang Lin shot a disdainful glance at Elder Lai Yang as he sneered. Elder Scorching Sun's expression kept changing as he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, it was swallowed by him. If he were to spit out this mouthful of blood in front of everyone, it would be a great loss of face. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. At this time, Yang Lin suddenly attacked. Everyone only saw 4 streaks of sword light flash past. In the next moment, for the 20 or so high-level primal chaos ancestral saints on Stella's side exploded into clouds of blood mist. 4 high-level primal chaos ancestral saints were killed. They didn't even know how they died before they could react. Stella and the others who hadn't been killed felt their hearts tremble. fear filling the depths of their eyes. Old Yanglin actually took action. He didn't care about Elder Scorching Sun at all and directly attacked them. Do you think I won't attack because of this piece of trash? Next time, it'll be 8 of you, Yanglin said indifferently as he looked down on the world and pointed at Elder Lai Yang. He was a veteran 9th rank primal chaos ancestral saint. Yet someone had called him a piece of trash. Elder Lai Yang was enraged. Finally, he couldn't hold it in any longer and spat out a mouthful of blood. After spitting out a mouthful of blood, the aura on his body became chaotic. I won't get involved in this matter. One of the high-level primal chaos ancestral saints who'd kidnapped Murong cried out in horror, then took a step forward and flew into the distance. Yang Lin didn't stop him. At the end of the day, they were all Murong Yu's enemies. If Murong Yu wanted revenge, he could only rely on himself. It wasn't convenient for Yang Lin to intervene. Moreover, if he killed all of Murong Yu's enemies, it wouldn't be good for Murong Yu's growth. Therefore, the high-level primal chaos ancestral saints left one after another. Even Stella left unwillingly. Even if he wanted to kill Murong Yu all the time, if he dared to make a move, he'd be killed by Yang Lin before he could kill Murong Yu. Murong Yu slowly walked over to Yang Lin's side. He had a complicated look on his face. This was indeed a world where the strong preyed on the weak. In the face of absolute strength, everything was meaningless. However, Murong Yu didn't envy Yang Lin's current strength. He knew that there would come a day when he would have old Yang Lin's strength and even surpass him. It was only a matter of time. What was there to envy? You're courting death. Just as Murong Yu was walking towards Yang Lin furrowed his brows and coldly shouted, "Stop!" At the same time, he attacked again. Sword light flashed and slashed at the void in front of him. Ah! An incomparably shrill scream sounded. Following that, a cloud of blood mist appeared in everyone's line of sight. Murong Yu was taken aback and had a higher opinion of Yang Lin's strength. Because the person hidden in the void killed by Yang Lin was the Star Moon Pavilion's assassin. It was precisely because of him that Murong Yu failed miserably. Murong Yu could see that person's existence. However, this guy frequently changed his position and never stayed in the same place for even a breath of time. Therefore, even if Murong Yu used a soul attack, it was difficult to cause harm to him. However, old Yang Lin killed him with a casual slash of his sword. This strength was truly terrifying. Elder Scorching Sun's eyes also revealed a look of astonishment. With his strength, he naturally knew the existence of that Star Moon Pavilion's assassin. However, he didn't have the confidence to kill him in one strike. That assassin's concealment and assassination Dao were truly powerful. Is Star Moon Pavilion not putting me in their eyes? Since that's the case, after this matter, I can only make a trip to Star Moon Pavilion, Yang Lin said indifferently, his eyes shooting a glance at a few positions in the void. Those places had a Star Moon Pavilion's assassin hiding. When Yang Lin's gaze looked over, they felt as if their bodies were being burned by holy fire. Just a glance was enough to make their blood boil. It practically shook them out of the void. Who the hell is this person? His strength is actually so terrifying? These assassins were all stunned. Then, without prior agreement, they quickly retreated. Meanwhile, those bystanders were very excited at this time. I wonder if this senior will really make a trip to Star Moon Pavilion? If it's true, I wonder what the outcome will be. Really looking forward to it. Star Moon Pavilion was loved and hated by everyone. Moreover, all along, no faction dared to directly provoke them. If Yang Lin dared to charge up, it would definitely be very exciting. They were all happy to watch the show. Watching Murong Yu walk to Yang Lin's side, true Martial Temple's veteran Chaos Ancestor Sage, Lai Yang's expression kept changing. Now, he couldn't leave, but he couldn't stay either. It was really awkward. At this time, more high-level Chaos Ancestor Sages had already arrived. However, these people all retreated far away after arriving. They were powerful, but how could they compare to Elder Lai Yang? Moreover, Elder Lai Yang was a peerless expert of true Martial Temple. Yang Lin could teach such an existence a lesson as he wished, let alone them. Therefore, they all knew that they wouldn't be able to get Murong Yu today. However, they still stayed. It would be best if Yang Lin and Elder Lai Yang could have an earth-shattering battle so that they could watch the show. Why aren't you scramming? After undoing the seal and restriction in Murong Yu's body with a wave of his hand, Yang Lin glanced at Elder Lai Yang in disdain. Elder Lai Yang's blood boiled, and he almost couldn't help but spit out another mouthful of blood. Yang Lin was really too much of a bully. If he left just like that, he would lose a lot of face. Not only would he lose face, but he would also lose face for true martial temple. It didn't matter if he lost face, but he absolutely couldn't lose face for true martial temple. Therefore, he couldn't leave just like that. Therefore, Elder Lai Yang stood where he was and glared at Yang Lin. Yang Lin's face revealed a look of displeasure. He waved his hand and slashed with his sword. Bang! Elder Lai Yang was a veteran level 9 Chaos Ancestor Sage and was extremely powerful. He immediately moved to block Yang Lin's attack. However, although he blocked it, he couldn't stop it at all. After a loud bang, Elder Scorching Sun spat out a mouthful of blood. He was sent flying like a kite with a broken string. You really don't know what's good for you. Yang Lin sneered and grabbed Murong Yu with one hand, wanting to fly away. Old man, wait, they're my people. Can you? Murong Yu panicked. Peng Huamao and the others were still in the hands of others. If they didn't save them, who would dare follow him in the future? Yang Lin didn't say anything and only glanced over indifferently. Haha, just kidding, just kidding. The high-grade Chaos Ancestral Saints who had captured Peng Huamao and the others smiled obsequiously and quickly undid the seals and restrictive spells on them. They didn't want to let a cooked duck fly away. However, they didn't want to be killed by Yang Lin's sword even more. Murong Yu then took Peng Huamao and the others into the Hichu Luo Shu. Old man, we can leave now. Murong Yu grinned. He didn't say any words of gratitude to the old man. If he really was grateful, he wouldn't just say it. Murong Yu wasn't someone who only knew how to talk. Yang Lin nodded and grabbed Murong Yu with one hand. Then, he took a step forward and instantly disappeared from where he stood. No one could track their whereabouts. Chapter 1594. Holy Lord, was that your master, the Seamless Society's Tao master? In a small city extremely far away from Heavenly Demon City, Murong Yu's group was gathered in a restaurant. Zheng Ro asked with a curious expression. In fact, it wasn't just Zheng Ro. Peng Huamao, Jiang Wenxian, and the others also had the same feeling. After seeing old Yang Lin's strength, they were stunned. They were very excited on the way back. Although they didn't have much interaction with old Yang Lin, he was still on their side, wasn't he? Everyone had the heart to worship the strong. Therefore, after learning that old Yang Lin had left, they asked about him. Everyone knew that Murong Yu only had one master, and that was the Seamless Society's Tao master. Legend had it that the Seamless Society's Tao master was extremely powerful. Therefore, Zheng Ro and the others mistakenly thought that old Yang Lin was the Seamless Society's Tao master. Murong Yu shook his head. The old man isn't the Seamless Society's Tao master. As Murong Yu spoke, a gloomy expression appeared on his face. They hadn't seen each other for a long time, and old Yang Lin had saved him many times. Murong Yu naturally wanted to meet up with him, and he was also curious about how old Yang Lin's strength had increased to such a terrifying level. However, old Yang Lin didn't give him the chance at all. After leaving Heavenly Devil City, he left Murong Yu behind. Then he swaggered off. This made Murong Yu swallow the words that had been brewing in his heart for a long time. Old Yang Lin definitely isn't an ordinary person. He should be the reincarnation of a sovereign. Otherwise, his strength wouldn't be so terrifying. Murong Yu pondered and guessed old Yang Lin's identity. Only that kind of person could increase his strength so quickly. I wonder if old Yang Lin will be a sovereign the next time I see him. Seeing Murong Yu pondering, Peng Huamao and the others were still curious about old Yang Lin's identity, but they didn't continue to ask. Although they were a little disappointed that old Yang Lin wasn't the Seamless Society's Tao master, old Yang Lin's relationship with Murong Yu wasn't bad. As a result, The strength of Morong Yu's side was not bad. The Infernal Tao and Old Yanglin. The strength of Morong Yu's side was extremely terrifying. Peng Huamao and the others exchanged glances. Then Peng Huamao looked at Morong Yu, but he was hesitant. It seemed like he had something to say to Morong Yu, but he didn't dare to say it. Seeing this, Morong Yu couldn't help but smile. Captain, you are all Shenzhen's men. Our Shenzhen isn't as hierarchical as the other factions. Our Shenzhen is a big family. If you want to treat me as the Holy Lord, that's fine. You can even treat me as a friend. Don't be so formal. Peng Huamao and the others were touched by his words. The other forces had a strict hierarchy. This was especially true for those who had just joined. Even if their cultivation levels were high, their status in the forces might not necessarily be high. On the contrary, it was more likely that he would be treated as a hired thug. The atmosphere in Shenzhen was what they liked. Therefore, Peng Huamao said, Holy Lord, you are our benefactor. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't have been able to break through to the primal chaos ancestor saint realm. You have helped us too much, but we haven't been able to repay you. Morong Yu waved his hand. He didn't care about these things at all. Holy Lord, we know of an extremely secretive secret realm. There was a powerful saint artifact in there. It is very likely to be a supreme weapon. Even if it isn't a supreme weapon, it is infinitely close to one. Originally, we planned to collect it after we broke through to the primal chaos ancestor saint realm. However, we plan to give it to you now. Morong Yu didn't care much at first, but after hearing that it might be a supreme weapon, his interest was piqued. However, that sacred weapon belonged to Peng Huamao and the others, so he couldn't take it. These things were discovered by you. So how can I take it? Morong Yu shook his head. Although he was interested, he wouldn't snatch things from his own people. Of course, if it were someone else, he wouldn't hesitate to fight for it. Peng Huamao shook his head. Holy Lord, that sacred weapon is extremely powerful. We may not be able to get it. Moreover, we can't guarantee that you will get it. We're just offering it to you. Zheng Ro, Li Haoqian, and the others also tried to persuade him. In the end, Morong Yu agreed. Of course, the premise was that they could get the sacred weapon. There was no time to lose, and Morong Yu didn't have anything to do for the time being. Thus, the group flew towards the secret realm that Peng Huamao and the others had accidentally discovered. Little Z had to be mentioned here. Although the abnormality in Little Z's body had disappeared, she had yet to wake up. However, Morong Yu noticed that Little Z had begun to change. It seemed that she was growing. At this time, Little Z didn't look like a 6 or 7-year-old girl anymore. Instead, she looked like she had grown to be 8 or 9 years old. At the same time, Morong Yu felt that Little Z seemed to be slowly growing stronger. However, there was still no fluctuation of power in her body. Morong Yu was quite looking forward to what kind of surprise Little Z would give him when she woke up. Mysterious Frost Secret Realm. The Mysterious Frost Secret Realm was located in the Holy Kingdom of Mysterious Frost. However, it was a small secret realm. In addition to the lingering frost and ice, there weren't even many plants or fierce beasts. Moreover, the temperature in the Mysterious Frost Secret Realm was extremely low. Ordinary saints would be frozen if they entered. Because of these reasons, no one entered the Mysterious Frost Secret Realm at ordinary times. However, what was interesting was that when Morong Yu and the others came near the Mysterious Frost Secret Realm, Peng Huamao and the others were surprised to find that the Mysterious Frost Secret Realm had become a paradise of a force. The Ice Snow Sect. The Ice Snow Sect was one of the top forces of the human clan in the Holy World. It was extremely powerful, almost as powerful as the heaven-suppressing sect. At this time, the Mysterious Frost Secret Realm had been occupied by a branch of the Ice Snow Sect. No one was allowed to approach within a radius of 100,000 miles. Otherwise, they would be killed without mercy. Just a moment ago, Morong Yu's group had been warned. The most interesting thing was that it was only a holy king and a group of ancient saints who warned Morong Yu and the others. These people were simply using their connections to intimidate others. They didn't take Peng Huamao and the other chaotic ancestral saints seriously. They acted as if they were the most powerful people in the world. Get out of here immediately, or the ice snow sect will make you die without a burial place. The first-level Holy King looked at Murong and the others with a look of contempt. The muscles on Peng Huamao and the others' faces twitched. Not to mention that they were now chaotic ancestral saints. Even if they were ancestral saints, no Holy King dared to treat them like this. They were courting death. Cold, killing intent erupted from their bodies, and even their muscles started to tremble slightly. This was caused by them trying their best to restrain themselves from killing. What if we don't leave? At this time, Murong finally spoke. Knowing that this place was occupied by the Ice Snow sect, Murong pondered. He knew about the Ice Snow sect. Although it was not as good as the 10 Great Holy Lands, it was still extremely powerful. Logically speaking, no matter how low the temperature in the mysterious Frost Secret Realm was, the Ice Snow sect should not have mobilized so many people. To the outside world, the Ice Snow sect claimed that they were interested in the low temperature of the mysterious Frost Secret Realm. This was because all the disciples of the Ice Snow sect cultivated techniques related to ice and snow. A place with low temperature was good for their cultivation. Is there really a supreme weapon here? If that's the case, the Ice Snow sect must have occupied this place because of that supreme weapon. And if it's not a supreme weapon, there must be other treasures. Originally, Murong only came here with the mentality of trying. But the Ice Snow sect's big lineup attracted Murong's attention. Then die. The Holy King roared and slashed his sword at Murong. Murong was stunned. He was frightened. Who gave his first-level Holy King the guts to attack him? And Murong was surrounded by Peng Huamao and 8 other Chaos Ancestral Saints, as well as a powerful big black dog. Did the disciples of the Ice Snow sect all think they were the masters of the holy world? So bold and presumptuous? Woof! Lord Heavenly Dog has long disliked you. F***, I'll swallow you. The big black dog barked, then stomped on the ground, turned into a black light, and pounced. Swoosh! Opening his bloody mouth, the disciples of the Ice Snow sect were swallowed by the big black dog. It was so fast that Murong could not stop it in time. Eat! Eat! A foodie who only knows how to eat. Murong glared at the big black dog, then sent him flying with a kick. This guy was in trouble. Sure enough, just after the big black dog swallowed the disciples of the Ice Snow sect, a group of people shot over from afar. Their aura was monstrous, and killing intent filled the air. Swish! 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 In just a few breaths of time, Murong and the others were surrounded by a dense crowd of disciples of the Ice Snow sect. The disciples of the Ice Snow sect all exuded an icy aura. With such a large number gathered together, it directly caused a change in heaven and earth. It actually started to snow. Audacious fanatics, who gave you the guts to kill the disciples of the Ice Snow sect? Die, all of you! After these people appeared, without saying a word, they directly launched the most violent attacks on Murong and the others. Murong was extremely helpless. Were the people of the Ice Snow sect idiots? Since they dared to attack, they naturally were not afraid of them. And among the disciples who surrounded them, there were even imperishable realm disciples. This really made one speechless. Holy Lord! Peng Huamao and the others did not immediately attack, but looked at Murong. Murong nodded. They're bullying us. Let's kill these idiots. Remember, our Shenzhen does not take the initiative to cause trouble, but we're absolutely not afraid of trouble. Okay. The big Li Haoqian grinned, then took a step forward, directly attacking the many disciples of the Ice Snow sect. And Peng Huamao and the others did not say a word, pouring out terrifying power one after another. Chapter 1595. Puffed, puffed, puffed. In just a moment, the disciples of the Ice Snow sect were reaped by Peng Huamao and the others as if they were cutting grass. In fact, these people were killed before they even had the chance to use their powers. Among these people, the strongest was only an ancestral sage. There was not a single ancestral sage in the chaos. Morong-yu really couldn't understand these people. With their strength, how could they dare to attack Morong-yu and the others? Could it be that when others heard the words Ice Snow Sect, their bodies would go soft and they would have no strength to fight back and could only be slaughtered by them? Moreover, the Ice Snow Sect had already occupied the mysterious Frost Secret Realm. But there was no ancestral sage in the chaos to guard this place. This didn't make sense. Peng Huamao and the others were also puzzled. However, this was not something they should consider, nor was it something Morong-yu should consider. It was best if there were no experts guarding this place again. Otherwise, whether they could enter the mysterious Frost Secret Realm would still be a problem. Therefore, Morong-yu and the others rose into the air and shot toward the entrance of the mysterious Frost Secret Realm. However, it didn't take long for them to encounter some disciples of the Ice Snow Sect rushing over. Still, before Morong-yu could make a move, these disciples of the Ice Snow Sect were killed by Peng Huamao and the others one after another. Without an ancestral sage in the chaos, even a peak ancestral sage was no match for Peng Huamao and the others. What's more, there wasn't even a single peak ancestral sage in this so-called Ice Snow Sect branch. Those of other realms were killed by Peng Huamao and the others like slaughtering chickens and dogs. Strange, the Ice Snow Sect came here in such a big formation, but there are only a few of them, and they're not strong? Zheng said strangely. It was unknown whether she was asking Morong-yu and the others or talking to herself. No one answered because no one knew what was going on. However, looking at the formation of the Ice Snow Sect, it didn't seem that there were only so many people and there were only a few experts, because this place had been built into a large sect. They even saw the aura left behind by some peerless experts in the void. Morong-yu could roughly distinguish their strength from the aura they left behind. There were more than 1 or 2 primal chaos ancestral saints left behind in this world. There were at least 10 to 20 of them, or even more. However, some auras had been around for too long and could no longer be distinguished. Morong-yu was the only one who could confirm that there were 20 of them. As they spoke, more disciples of the Ice Snow Sect charged over. However, they were still easily dealt with by Peng Huamao and the rest. In the end, Peng Huamao and the others simply went all out and killed all the disciples of the Church of Ice here. In any case, killing one is killing, killing two is also killing. Moreover, the Church of Ice would never let them off. Since that was the case, he might as well kill a few more. Every bit of weakening the Church of Ice's strength was worth it. Moreover, the disciples of the Ice Snow Sect were truly despicable, committing all sorts of crimes. They were notorious in the Saints' world. The people of the Church of Ice are definitely not here for nothing. Morong-yu pondered and began to analyze the situation. It was obvious that the Church of Ice had a lot of people here, including many peerless experts. However, these people were not here, and there were no traces of a great battle nearby. Morong-yu speculated that they had most likely all entered the Frost Secret Realm. If their goal was the same as Morong-yu's, then they were in big trouble. With so many experts unable to collect it, even if Morong-yu went, he might not necessarily succeed. Moreover, if they encountered people of the Church of Ice with their character and behavior, they would definitely kill them at the first opportunity. Morong-yu's guess was correct. At this time, many experts of the Church of Ice were experiencing a fierce battle in the deepest part of the Frost Secret Realm, and his opponent was Morong-yu's acquaintance. At this time, the people of the Church of Ice already knew that all the disciples outside had been wiped out. They wanted to send people out to see what was going on, but there were no extra people. There are hundreds of primal chaos ancestral saints, and countless experts of other realms were currently being suppressed and beaten by a dozen or so people. Every moment, disciples of the Church of Ice would perish. Even many peerless experts had fallen in the process. One could imagine how terrifying their enemy's strength was. However, their main goal now was to delay. They had already asked the Church of Ice for help. They believed that soon, a large number of peerless experts of the Church of Ice would rush over. At that time, the treasure would be theirs, and their enemies would also die without a burial place. Swish! As soon as Murong appeared in the mysterious Frost secret realm, his body couldn't help but shiver. Cold. It was really too cold. Even with his strength and physical body, he still felt cold, let alone others. So much so that even Murong's soul felt a chill. The coldness of the mysterious Frost secret realm seemed to be able to freeze even the soul. However, as Murong's power circulated, he soon returned to normal. He no longer felt the cold. However, to Murong's surprise, Peng Huamao and the others were so cold that their teeth were chattering, and their faces were pale and bloodless. They were all first-rank, primal, chaos, ancestral saints, and their strength was so strong that they were peerless experts. But they were so weak. Was it really that cold? Murong immediately asked in confusion. Sacred Lord, this place is like the starving heavenly demon's secret realm. The coldness here is getting colder and colder. Once our energy is depleted, we will freeze to death. And this is only the periphery of the mysterious Frost secret realm. We have all restrained our strength and only used our bodies to resist the cold here. In the end, we are just saving our strength, because the speed of recovering strength here is not even 1/10 of the outside, but the consumption of strength is 1/10 of the outside. 100 times difference. Murong felt a little and felt that Peng Huamao's words made sense. However, there were no restrictions on Murong, because the speed at which the Tree of Life absorbed the free chaotic power between heaven and earth did not decrease. In other words, Murong could still consume and absorb a relatively balanced amount of power here. Be careful. Murong gave Peng Huamao and the others a few low-grade holy meridians. They were Shenzhen's first batch of primal chaos ancestral saints, and they were also loyal. Murong did not want them to die here. Moreover, Murong did not ask them to enter Hichu Luo Shu. They were primal chaos ancestral saints after all, and they had the dignity of peerless experts. Unless they encountered an irresistible danger, they would never be protected by others. It was bone-piercing cold. It was a vast expanse of white, and all he could see was ice and snow. Swoosh! Murong rose into the air. This time, he discovered another ability of the mysterious Frost secret realm, although there was no suppression of one's realm and flying ability here. The higher he flew, the more power he consumed. Murong tried it. When he flew to a height of 50 kilometers, the power consumed was 100 times that of flying at a low altitude. And the power consumed at higher altitudes was even more terrifying. At higher altitudes, even Murong's power could not support it. Therefore, everyone who entered the mysterious Frost secret realm chose not to. They would not fly if it was not necessary. However, Murong did not mind this consumption. Therefore, they flew at a low altitude toward the place where Peng Huamao had developed the divine artifact. The deeper they went, the colder it was. Gradually, Peng Huamao and the others had to use their power to resist the cold. The deeper they went, the more difficult it was to resist, and the more terrifying the power consumed at the same time. Only Murong was the same as usual. At this time, his body was burning with black flame of primal chaos. He found that the flame of primal chaos was a powerful tool to drive away the cold. He could not feel the cold at all. However, the consumption of the flame of primal chaos was really terrifying. If it were not him, others would not be able to hold on for long. However, Peng Huamao and the others were miserable. They were all frozen like popsicles. Rumble. After venturing deeper into the forest, Murong and the others heard a series of loud noises coming from up ahead. At the same time, it was accompanied by a terrifying power fluctuation. There were people fighting in front, and it seemed to be a large-scale battle. Peng Huamao and the others' expressions changed slightly, because the divine artifact they had discovered before was right in front of them. Were those people subduing that divine artifact? Sacred Lord, that divine artifact is right in front of us, Zheng Ro said with an ugly expression. Murong nodded slightly and then sped up. Peng Huamao and the others did not care about wasting power and followed closely. Soon, they were stunned by the scene in front of them. In front of them, a huge light shield spanning thousands of miles shrouded the sky. And inside the light shield, there were tens of thousands of people. These people were all-powerful and had monstrous chi and blood. A part of the terrifying power soared into the sky and finally converged into the huge light shield above their heads, strengthening the light shield. And the other part was blasted out by them, bombarding the dozen or so enemies in front of them. Damn, who are those people? Just a dozen of them forced tens of thousands of people from the Ice Snow sect to retreat? And there are hundreds of Chaos Ancestral Saints in the Ice Snow sect. The big Li Haoqian was shocked and could not help but exclaim. Yes, the tens of thousands of experts from the Ice Snow sect were forced to retreat step by step, even though they had joined forces. They were no match for the dozen or so people. Moreover, there were people being shaken to death in the light shield from time to time. Although the light barrier hadn't shattered yet, it was only a matter of time before it shattered if things continued like this. Once the light shield was broken, they would all be slaughtered by the dozen or so people. Sacred Lord? You know those people? Zhengro could not help but ask when she saw Murong Yu's smiling face. Murong Yu nodded slightly. Not only did he know those people, but he was also very familiar with them, because they were the 17 disciples of the Infernal Society. However, Yu Yangjia, who was the most powerful and ranked 10th on the Saint rankings, was not present. But even without Yu Yangjia, just Lu Xiankai and the others alone were enough to defeat tens of thousands of experts from the Ice Snow sect. This was the difference between a sacred ground and a pinnacle force. Chapter 1596. They are the disciples of the Infernal Society, the senior brothers and sisters of the Sacred Master. Peng Huamao and the others looked at Lu Xiankai and the others in astonishment. The Infernal Society had always been one of the 10 great sacred lands, but they had very few disciples. This was a well-known fact, but no one knew how the Infernal Society could become one of the 10 great sacred lands with so few disciples. Even if all of them were chaotic ancestor saints, their combined strength might not be stronger than their peak strength. But now, when they saw Lu Xiankai and the others suppressing tens of thousands of experts of the Ice Sect, they knew why the Infernal Society was a sacred land. This was the strength of the 16 disciples of the Infernal Society. And it did not include Yu Yangjia, who was 10th on the Saint ranking. What did it mean to be 10th on the Life ranking? In the Holy World, he was one of the 10 strongest people below the Supremes. It was conceivable how terrifying Yu Yangjia's strength was. It could be said that there were only 9 people below the Supremes who could match him in the Holy World. Moreover, according to legend, the Master of the Infernal Society was even more terrifying. It was very likely that he was a Supremes. Just by his identity as a Supremes, the Infernal Society could look down on all heroes and become one of the 10 great sacred lands. Let's go and have a look. Murong Yu laughed and immediately soared into the air, flying forward. Senior brothers and sisters, do you need help? Murong Yu laughed and appeared in front of Lu Xiankai and the others. 18th junior brother, why are you here? Seeing Murong Yu appear, Lu Xiankai and the others were obviously a little surprised. This was because they hadn't informed Murong Yu about this operation. At the beginning of the mission, Murong Yu's realm was too low. He could not help at all. Moreover, they all knew that their operation was very secretive. Except for the Ice Sect, who had the same purpose, no third party knew. Murong Yu laughed. This time, I came to the mysterious Frost secret realm for some matters. I didn't expect all of you to be here. It seems that I was right to kill the disciples of the Ice Sect outside the secret realm. Hearing Murong Yu's words, Lu Xiankai and the others smiled. On the other hand, the members of the Church of Ice were gnashing their teeth. This was because Lu Xiankai's 16 people were already enough to make them unable to fight back. And now, there were 8 more primal chaos ancestral saints. If these people also joined in the attack, the time they could resist would be greatly reduced. Moreover, Although Murong Yu was only a peak Saint King, his strength was extremely terrifying. He might even have some special tricks up his sleeve. 18 Junior Brother, you came at the right time. These people from the Church of Ice don't know what's good for them. They want to kill us. However, they're all holed up in their tortoise shells, and we won't be able to break through them in a short time. I wonder if you have any ideas? Wu Xinshui asked Murong Yu in a somewhat gloomy voice as he looked at the sect of Ice's huge light shield. When Murong Yu had just joined the Infernal Dao, Wu Xinshui had already reached the peak of the Ancestor Sage realm. After all these years of cultivation, he had finally broken through to the Primal Chaos Ancestor Sacred Realm. In other words, Murong Yu is the only one of the 18 disciples who hadn't reached the Primal Chaos Ancestor Realm. Moreover, Wu Xinshui's battle prowess was definitely stronger than the average first-level Primal Chaos Ancestor Sacred Realm. How dare they try to kill the disciples of the Infernal Dao? Today I'll kill them all. Murong Yu's eyes were filled with murderous intent. At the same time, Murong Yu sent out a soul tempest at Bai Yunfei. Haha, upon hearing Murong Yu's words, many disciples of the Church of Ice burst into laughter. Murong Yu was powerful, but wasn't this a little too much of a braggart? No matter how powerful he was only a peak Saint King. Even the 16 disciples of the Infernal Dao couldn't break through their light shield. Was Murong Yu a million times stronger than all of them? However, to the shock of the many experts of the Church of Ice, before their laughter had even died down, some of them had already stopped abruptly. When they turned to look, they found that their faces were still filled with sneers, but there was no sign of life on their bodies. Poof, poof, poof. One figure after another fell to the ground. These people had one thing in common. Their faces still maintained their previous expressions, but there was no sign of life on their bodies. In just a split second, thousands of low-level disciples of the Church of Ice suddenly died. Soul attack. A peerless expert of the Church of Ice roared with a look of shock and anger, because just now his soul had also suffered an impact. Although his soul wasn't annihilated, he was more or less injured. Hearing this peerless expert's cry of alarm, the people of the Church of Ice all panicked, especially those who were covered by the soul attack just now. They were even more horrified. Some of them suffered from the attack. Although they didn't die, their souls were severely injured. Retreat. A peerless expert of the Church of Ice roared. Although their combined defense could withstand the power of the attack, but they had no ability to block the soul attack at all. Therefore, Murong Yu's soul attack could bombard them without any hindrance, instantly annihilating thousands of experts. Junior Brother, your soul attack has become a lot more powerful. Lu Xiankai and the others had a look of astonishment on their faces after witnessing the terror of Murong Yu's soul attack. I just had a small breakthrough before coming here. I still can't compare to senior brothers and sisters. Murong Yu laughed indifferently. He really didn't care, because the soul attack just now wasn't his strongest attack. The first attack was just a test. Knowing that his soul attack could kill them without any hindrance, Murong Yu planned to go all out, because he knew that there must be a reason why the Infernal Society members didn't leave here. And the Church of Ice still had a large number of experts. Those people would definitely rush over in a short period of time. Senior brothers, don't let anyone escape. Murong Yu said in a clear voice as he attacked again. Soul Storm. This time, Murong Yu attacked with all his might. A 5-star soul exploded with the strongest attack. In fact, after this attack, the surface of the Soul Sea, which was 20 million kilometers in size, sank by a layer. This was because Murong Yu had extracted a large amount of soul power. Swish! At the same time Murong Yu launched his soul attack, everyone present except for Murong Yu felt their hearts tremble in an instant. An extremely strong aura of death shrouded their hearts. The weaker one was, the stronger this feeling was. Soul attacks were invisible and intangible. They couldn't be seen at all. But now, everyone saw that the snowflakes in the sky in front of Murong Yu had disappeared into thin air and melted away. Layers of ripples appeared in the void, as if it was about to be annihilated. Block it! Block it! Sensing the aura of death, The Church of Ice members roared. But what could they use to block it? They couldn't block the soul attack at all. So, when the terrifying soul storm poured down, the Church of Ice members saw a scene that they would never forget in their lives. A large number of expert souls were strangled. One by one, they fell to the ground without any signs of life. Plop, plop, plop. The duration of the soul attack was extremely long, lasting only for an instant. But in this instant, the souls of tens of thousands of Church of Ice disciples were annihilated. Finally, when all the dust settled, there were only a little more than 100 people left standing. Moreover, these 100 people were also trembling, their faces were pale, and their eyes were filled with terror. One attack killed tens of thousands of people. Moreover, most of the surviving peerless expert souls had also suffered heavy injuries. As long as Murong Yu casually launched a soul attack, they would be dead. Shock. Apart from shock, there was still more shock. Everyone was stunned by Murong Yu's terrifying attack. Of course, Murong Yu's combat strength was actually inferior to Lu Xiankai and the others. They could also kill tens of thousands of people with a single slap. However, because of the light barrier, their attacks were not effective. But Murong Yu's soul attack. Most importantly, Murong Yu is only a peak saint ruler. Die! Murong Yu's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he shouted coldly. The soul attack was launched again. The remaining 100 or so peerless experts seemed to have been instantly killed. Kill him. Those who hadn't been killed were all of extremely high realms. With Murong Yu's current strength, he still couldn't kill them. At this time, the dozens of people reacted. One by one, they spread out and charged toward Murong Yu. Their target was Murong Yu. Murong Yu was startled. With a thought, he retreated rapidly. During this process, the time precepts, space precepts, and soul attacks rained down in a frenzy, trying to block their attacks. At the same time, the Infernal Society disciples also made their move. Peng Huamao and the others once again witnessed the terror of the Sacred Ground disciples. What was a true peerless expert? The members of the Infernal Society were the epitome of these words. Uft, uft, uft. The 16 Infernal Society disciples were very vicious. In a flash, they had already rushed into the midst of the many experts of the Ice Snow sect. Then, they directly launched a massacre. Yes, a massacre. Whether they were of the same realm, 1 or 2 realms higher, or even 3 realms higher, the peerless experts of the Ice Snow sect could not withstand the attacks of the Infernal Society disciples. As soon as the two sides came into contact, 16 peerless experts of the Ice Snow sect fell. They were almost instantly killed by the Infernal Society disciples. What powerful strength! Murong Yu stopped attacking and retreating. The Ice Snow people could not break through the obstruction of the Infernal Society disciples. They could only be slaughtered. The gap between the Sacred Ground and the Pinnacle forces was once again highlighted. However, if the Infernal Society disciples were so powerful, why were they ambushed in Wenjun's secret territory? Were they almost wiped out? Chapter 1597. Lu Xiankai and the others weren't as strong as they were now when they were in Wentown's secret territory. However, Xiao Qing and the others weren't very strong back then. They didn't even have many high-level Chaos Ancestor Saints. Combined with the strength that Lu Xiankai and the others had unleashed, Murong Yu felt that something was amiss. However, no matter how hard he racked his brains, he couldn't figure it out. Perhaps they were indeed plotted against back then. Unable to make any guesses, Murong Yu could only shake his head and discard those thoughts from his mind. One reason was because those things had long become history. No matter what the truth was, at least Lu Xiankai and the others had no malice towards him. 2. The battle here was also over. Wu Xinshui and the others were extremely powerful. The battle was one-sided from the beginning. In a short time, many of the Ice Snow sect's experts have been wiped out. Little junior brother, it's all thanks to you this time. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid we wouldn't have been able to slaughter them all. After the battle was over, Huining Hao flew to Murong Yu's side and patted Murong Yu's shoulder with his fan-sized palm as he spoke. Every word was a slap. Murong Yu grimaced in pain. Half of his foot was slapped into the ground. Eighth senior brother, you have to take it easy. My legs and arms are so thin. Don't kill me. Murong Yu rolled his eyes and said speechlessly. Huining Hao's dark face flushed red. His palm abruptly stopped in midair. However, his face was dark, and no one noticed that he was blushing. Little junior brother, eighth junior brother, is right. It's all thanks to you this time. The others also came over and said with a smile. Wu Xinshui naturally went to clean up the battlefield. Although there weren't many Chaos Ancestor saints, no matter how small a mosquito was, it was still meat. The treasures of tens of thousands of experts were a great harvest. Murong Yu shook his head. I'm just icing on the cake. Even if I didn't do anything, they would have been killed by you sooner or later. However, the Ice Snow Sex people were here with great fanfare, and now they've all been wiped out. Most likely, their experts will be killed very soon. At that time, I'm afraid even more of their experts will come. Everyone nodded slightly as a trace of worry flashed across their faces. Although they had easily annihilated tens of thousands of experts from the Church of Ice, they were still very strong. But what if there were hundreds of thousands or even millions of them? In fact, Huining Hao and the others would have no choice but to flee if more than 10,000 primal chaos ancestral saints came. No matter how powerful they were, there was still a limit. As one of the peak powers, the Church of Ice had at least 10,000 primal chaos ancestral saints. Given the Church of Ice's foundation, they definitely had over 30,000 primal chaos ancestors. It's a pity that fourth senior brother isn't here. Otherwise, with his strength, how could the people of the Ice Snow sect dare to be so impudent? Wu Xinshui shook his head and said with a look of pity. The fourth senior brother, Yu Yangjia, was ranked 10th on the saint rankings. When one's strength reached a certain level, numbers would no longer have any effect. For example, the current Murong Yu, even if the entire God realm attacked him at the same time, he would not be harmed in the slightest. And Murong Yu did not even need to make a move. He only needed to shake his body to kill everyone in the God realm. This was the difference in strength. The strength of our seamless society doesn't depend on any one person. Each and every one of us has to be strong. Fourth junior brother has improved his strength this time. If he can improve his realm, his ranking on the saint rankings will rise again. He might even break through the restrictions of the saint rankings and reach an even higher realm. Eldest senior brother Zhong Mingji said in a deep voice. An even higher realm? Wouldn't that be the sovereign realm? Murong Yu looked at Zhong Mingji with some suspicion. He wanted to ask, but he knew that Zhong Mingji and the others would definitely not tell him. His current realm was still too low. He was not qualified to come into contact with that level. Not to mention them. Even mid-level primal chaos ancestral saints could not come into contact with Yu Yangjia's level. Moreover, Murong Yu noticed that Wu Xinshui, Lu Xiankai, and the others were also confused. They obviously knew what Yu Yangjia had gone to do, but what realm would he reach after improving? They all had the same doubts as Murong Yu. If we can obtain the Heart of Ice this time, 13th junior brother's strength will definitely soar. It won't be a problem for him to have a place on the saint rankings. Zhong Mingji looked at Yin Gaohan with a hint of joy on his face. However, he soon became depressed. The others also had a gloomy look on their faces. At the same time, they were also a little ashamed. They were all disciples of the Seamless Society, but only Yu Yangjia was able to enter the saint rankings. Although Huining Hao and the others were strong, they could not even come into contact with the saint rankings. The difference in strength between them and Yu Yangjia was too big. Although they were not jealous of Yu Yangjia, they were still ashamed. Once Yu Yangjia broke through the restrictions of the saint rankings, no one from the Seamless Society would be able to enter the saint rankings. One must know that sacred grounds like True Martial Temple and Unparalleled Palace had many disciples who were able to enter the saint rankings, although their rankings were far less terrifying than Yu Yangjia's. However, there were only a total of 108,000 people who were able to enter the saint rankings. which one of them was not a top opponent in the holy world. Moreover, entering the saint rankings did not only mean that one had absolute strength, but it was also a symbol of one's status. Since it was difficult to become a sovereign, the primal chaos ancestor saints' goal was to increase their battle strength and fight for a place on the saint rankings. This was glory. Morongyu was shocked and looked at Ingaohan. Ingaohan was a high-level primal chaos ancestor saint and should be a rank 7 primal chaos ancestor saint. His true battle strength should have reached rank 8, which was comparable to an ordinary rank 9 primal chaos ancestor saint. However, he was still very far from the qualifications to enter the saint rankings. Under normal circumstances, the experts who entered the saint rankings were rank 9 or even peak primal chaos ancestor saints. One must know that even true martial temple's Elder Lai Yang did not have the qualifications to enter the saint rankings. However, this so-called Heart of Ice could actually increase Ingaohan's strength by so much. When he saw Murongyu looking at him in shock, Ingaohan, who had always had an indifferent expression and was as cold as ice, couldn't help but reveal a slight smile. This was a very rare sight. This guy was usually like a block of ice. He did not like to smile and kept people at arm's length. It's like this. I cultivate an ice attribute cultivation technique. Some time ago, when I was training outside, I accidentally entered this place and discovered that there was actually a heart of ice here. The heart of ice was a mysterious item that was nurtured by heaven and earth. It was one of the coldest things in the world. It had no effect on ordinary people. This was because those people would be frozen to death before they could even get close to the heart of ice. However, if an ice attribute cultivator were to obtain the heart of ice and fuse with it, this person's strength would increase tremendously. They would be able to unleash 200% of their strength. Moreover, the heart of ice could also improve that person's aptitude, allowing them to achieve twice the results with half the effort. Most importantly, legend had it that as long as one fused with this mysterious item, their ability to become a sovereign would be much greater than ordinary people. After discovering the heart of ice, Ingaohan was overjoyed and immediately began to collect it. However, the heart of ice was too powerful. With his strength alone, he could not do anything to it, let alone collect it. Therefore, he anxiously went back to call for reinforcements. At that time, Morongyu was very busy because of his relationship with Shenzhen. Therefore, Ingaohan did not inform Morongyu. Instead, he invited Yu Yangjia to help. That time, Yu Yangjia appeared outside the Mountain Sea secret realm to help. However, something happened on the way. Yu Yangjia seemed to have gone into seclusion and did not help. With the strength of 16 people, they were still unable to collect the heart of ice. Just as they were feeling depressed, the people from the Church of Ice arrived. Their goal was also the heart of ice. Originally, the people from the Church of Ice did not dare to snatch things from the infernal affairs. However, the heart of ice was of great importance. If one of them obtained the heart of ice, they might become a sovereign in the future. That way, they could also become a sacred ground. Therefore, in the end, it evolved into the scene that Murongyu saw earlier. Is the heart of ice really that magical? Murongyu looked at Ingaohan and the others with some doubt. He still had a trace of doubt in his heart. Ingaohan and the others nodded heavily. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go get the heart of ice. Murongyu immediately said with determination. Since the heart of ice was so important, he had to get it. Even if it was for Ingaohan, Ingaohan was still a disciple of the infernal affairs. His increase in strength would only benefit Murongyu and not harm him. Zhong Mingji and the others smiled bitterly. If it was so easy to get the heart of ice, they would have done it long ago. Let's go, what are you waiting for? If the experts from the Church of Ice come, we can only watch them collect the heart of ice, Murongyu said somewhat speechlessly. Why were these guys not nervous at all? Little junior brother, you have a way to collect the heart of ice? 16th senior sister Lu Bingxin suddenly asked Murongyu. Murongyu stared blankly. You guys don't have a way, how can I? Everyone was slightly disappointed, but they still rose into the air and flew towards the heart of ice. It was worth mentioning that they all had large amounts of energy recovery pills and immortal veins on them. Therefore, they did not conserve their energy like Peng Huamao and the others. No matter what, they had to give it a try. If they really could not collect it, it could only mean that the heart of ice was not fated with them. That way, they would also give up. However, Morongyu did not think so. Treasures and the like were sometimes dependent on fate. But sometimes, fate did not work, and one could only rely on absolute strength. Morongyu did not believe that with his various treasures, he could not subdue a mere heart of ice. Chapter 1598. The deeper they went, the colder it got. However, everyone was not stingy with their power to protect their bodies, so the coldness could not stop them from going deeper. Not long after, Morongyu and the rest reached the depths of the mysterious frost secret realm. Thump! 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 Before they got close, Morongyu heard a sound similar to a heartbeat coming from the endless ice and snow in front of them. Every time there was a sound, the space and earth trembled. In fact, Morongyu even felt that his heart was trembling along with the loud sound. The frequency was the same. The most terrifying thing was that when the heartbeat sound acted on his body, he felt his body instantly turn cold. Then, when the sound was over, his physical body returned to normal. However, although the thump-thump sound was not fast, it maintained a frequency of one sound every breath. Therefore, Morongyu's body was normal for a while, and then turned into an ice cave in the next. Morongyu continued to go deeper. After a while, he saw a huge but transparent heart. This is the heart of ice. It looks like a human heart. However, it contains the law of ice. If I can refine or merge it, I can obtain the law of ice inside. Gaoan came to Morongyu's side and looked hopefully at the transparent heart that was the size of a small mountain. Hearing that, Morongyu's heart skipped a beat. He nodded slightly and then looked at the heart of ice. The temperature here was extremely low, so low that even Peng Huamao and other peerless experts who had just broken through to the chaotic ancestor saint realm could not stand it. Even the flame of chaos burning on Morongyu's body was suppressed by the power of ice and burned on his skin. However, the ice heart's power of ice was still unable to threaten Morongyu. However, Morongyu discovered that the ice frost heart's power wasn't the entirety of the heart of ice's power. He felt that the power of ice in the heart of ice was 100 times, 1,000 times, or even more powerful than the power of ice. After all, the heart of ice contained the law of ice. Although he didn't know how many there were, those that were related to the word law were definitely not simple. And the more this was the case, the more determined Morongyu was to obtain this heart of ice. Keep the goodies within the family. There was no reason for the Church of Ice to get their hands on these treasures. However, Morongyu did not believe that they would be able to take it. However, one could never be too careful. Senior Marshal Brother, have you exhausted all your methods? Morongyu pondered for a moment, but couldn't think of any effective method. Thus, he looked at Gaohan and the others. Everyone nodded helplessly. They all wanted to collect the heart of ice and snow, but they were powerless. Junior brother, if it doesn't work, we'll leave this place. The experts of the Ice-Snow sect are about to arrive, advised Gaoan. For something like the heart of ice and snow, even a supreme being might not be able to do anything to it. It was normal for them to not be able to collect it. I want to try. Morongyu frowned and finally said in a deep voice. Gaohan and the others nodded. It wasn't a bad idea to let Morongyu try. Who knows, he might really succeed. Thus, Morongyu sat down cross-legged. His divine sense spread out from his body and slowly extended towards the heart of ice and snow. The heart of ice and snow was very powerful. Even Gaohan and the others couldn't do anything to it. One could imagine how terrifying it was. Although Morongyu was powerful, he wasn't conceited enough to think that he was stronger than Gaohan and the others. Thus, he didn't intend to use violence to subdue the heart of ice and snow, because that was impossible. He wanted to persuade the heart of ice and snow. Junior brother, could it be that you want to communicate with the heart of ice and snow? That's impossible. We can't communicate with the heart of ice and snow at all. Seeing Murong Yu's appearance, Ing Gaohan and the others immediately knew what Murong Yu wanted to do. They all shook their heads. In the beginning, they all had the same idea as Murong Yu. However, after communicating with the heart of ice and snow for many years, they still couldn't communicate with it. In the end, they wanted to use violence to subdue it, but it was still impossible. Then, the people from the sect of ice came. Heart of ice and snow, I know that you're so powerful, so you must have consciousness. Take a good look at me and see how I'm different from the others. Murong Yu's divine sense came into contact with the heart of ice and snow as he shouted. His divine will contain the power of time and the power of space. Time and space edicts? Before Murong Yu's voice fell, a trace of hidden fluctuation was transmitted over. Then, a voice appeared in his mind. However, this voice was somewhat disdainful. It was as if Murong Yu's mastery of time and space edicts wasn't enough for it to take seriously. Murong Yu smiled faintly and didn't get angry. Take a good look. Do I control the time and space edicts? Don't try to convince me. I'll never submit to you saints. The heart of ice and snow was somewhat disdainful, and its angry voice was transmitted over again. Although the heart of ice and snow wasn't a living thing, it had existed for so many people and had a certain level of consciousness. How could it submit to one person, or even be devoured by that person? No one with consciousness would be willing to do that. Moreover, the heart of ice and snow was so powerful. That's not right. This is the time and space edicts. After the angry voice, the heart of ice and snow's extremely surprised voice was heard again. Who are you? How can you control the time and space edicts? The heart of ice and snow's voice was somewhat trembling. Then, an illusion appeared in Murong Yu's mind. It was a young man in his 20s, who was almost transparent. This should be an illusion created by the heart of ice and snow. With a thought, Murong Yu condensed a clone of his divine sense and appeared in front of the heart of ice and snow. He didn't answer the heart of ice and snow's question. Instead, he said faintly, "Heart of ice and snow, right? Now take a look at my physical body and soul." The heart of ice stared at Murong Yu, but still checked Murong Yu's physical body and soul. What he saw gave him a big fright. This was because he discovered that Murong Yu is also a powerful soul saint. However, as for Murong Yu's physical body, he couldn't see anything special about it. Although he was powerful and he knew a lot. After all, he didn't know everything. He didn't know about the chaotic celestial body. You know about the chaotic celestial body, right? I am the chaotic celestial body. As long as I don't die prematurely, I will eventually become the master of chaos. That's an existence beyond the dominator. The heart of ice and snow, although you are powerful and contain part of the ice and snow law. However, even if you contain a trace of the ice and snow law, you are still the heart of ice and snow. You can't leave here. You can't become more powerful. The shocked heart of ice frowned slightly. What do you want? You want me to submit to you? Follow you? The shock that Murong Yu had given him was simply too great. If that was the case, then he could seriously consider it. After all, what Murong Yu said was the truth. No matter how powerful he was, he could only stay in the mysterious Frost secret realm. If he submitted to Murong Yu or others, he could leave here with them and become stronger together. Murong Yu shook his head. As you can see, I control the time and space law. Although I can't fully control them now, if you submit to me, there will be no place for you in my body. I hope you can choose my 13th senior brother. He cultivates the ice cultivation method, and his physique is also ice. If you can merge with him, it will be of great benefit to both of you. Moreover, although my senior brother's aptitude is not as good as mine, it is definitely not bad. And he is my senior brother. When I become the master of chaos, my senior brother's achievements will definitely not be bad. Moreover, if you find out that I lied to you, you can leave at any time. When a man achieves the Tao, even his chickens and dogs will ascend to heaven. If Murong Yu really became the master of chaos, the people around him would also benefit from it and obtain endless benefits. The heart of ice pondered. He found that Murong Yu's words were not wrong. There is really no place for him in Murong Yu's body. The gap between the laws and the rules was too big. Only other rules could have a place in Murongyu's body. Although Gaoan was slightly weaker than Murongyu, as Murongyu said, seeing that the heart of ice was pondering, Murongyu did not continue speaking. He only looked at the heart of ice indifferently. If the heart of ice did not agree, he would have no choice but to leave. Okay, I agree. After half a day, the heart of ice finally agreed. Heart of ice, you will soon find out how accurate your choice is today. Murongyu smiled and said, then his divine sense left his mind. At the same time, he stood up. 13th senior brother, it's done. You can merge with the heart of ice now. Murongyu smiled at Gaoan. It's done. Gaoan and the others looked at each other in disbelief. Not even a day had passed, and Murongyu had convinced the heart of ice so quickly. Wasn't this too miraculous? One must know that they had worked hard for so many years, but still could not communicate with the heart of ice. Seeing their expressions, Murongyu naturally knew that they did not believe him. Murongyu could understand them. If it were him, he would not believe it either. 13th senior brother, if you don't hurry up, the people from the Church of Ice will be here soon. Murongyu continued smiling. Gaoan nodded. He felt that Murongyu was not lying to him, and whether he was lying or not, he would know once he tried. Thus, he walked towards the heart of ice in large strides. After taking a few steps, he was pleasantly surprised, because he found that the heart of ice's ice power no longer affected him. That enormous resistance also disappeared without a trace. One must know that not long ago, they could not even get close to the heart of ice. Little junior brother, thank you. Gaoan laughed and excitedly rushed towards the heart of ice. Chapter 1599. Whoosh! Gaohan's figure flashed as he entered the heart of ice and snow and began the fusion. Little junior brother, how did you do it? The heart of ice shouldn't do anything to junior brother right? Zhong Mingji glanced at the heart of ice and asked Murongyu at the same time. Murongyu shook his head. He had already convinced the heart of ice and snow. As long as nothing happened, the heart of ice wouldn't harm Gaoan. Little junior brother, how did you do it? You convinced the heart of ice with just a few words? Lu Bingxin walked over and looked at Murongyu curiously. Zhong Mingji and the others were the same. Persuading with emotion and persuading with reason. That's it. Murongyu smiled. He seemed very relaxed after convincing the heart of ice. Everyone looked at Murongyu in disbelief. If the heart of ice was so easy to convince, why would they waste so much saliva before? It's related to my constitution. It's really just like that. Murongyu spoke the truth. Zhong Mingji and the others finally let Murongyu go. If that was the case, then it made sense. As for what Murongyu said, even if he didn't say it, everyone could roughly guess. It will take some time for the heart of ice and 13th senior brother to fuse. What we need to do now is to prevent the sect of ice from causing trouble, Murongyu said in a deep voice. Hearing that, the smiles on Zhong Mingji and the others' faces instantly disappeared and were replaced with worry. Previously, they could still escape if they couldn't win, but now they couldn't escape at all, unless they gave up on Gaoan. But that was impossible, and the sect of ice would definitely send a large number of peerless experts this time. With their current strength, it would be difficult for them to block their attacks. However, even if it was a few hundred times harder, they still had to block it. It wasn't because Gaoan would become stronger after successfully fusing with the heart of ice, but because Gaoan was their senior brother. He was like a family member. Let's first set up a large number of formations and restrictions nearby, Murongyu said as he began to move. Zhong Mingji and the others nodded and began to set up various spirit arrays in the nearby area. However, Murongyu still had a large number of chaos ancestral artifacts in his Hichu Luoshu, which was why he used them as the foundation for all the formations he set up, including the formation cores. Therefore, the power of the formation he set up was extremely terrifying. Even so, it could only temporarily resist the attacks of the many experts of the Church of Ice. After all, the array formation was dead, while the primal chaos ancestor sage was alive. If there wasn't enough power to maintain the array formation, it would shatter sooner or later. And in view of Murong Yu's strength, although the array he set up was powerful, there was still a limit. In just a few days, Murong Yu and the others had set up tens of thousands of layers of formations and restrictions in the vicinity. Countless formations and restrictions were stacked together, completely enveloping the entire area. If an ignorant person were to enter this place, they would die without a doubt. Murong Yu had set up almost all the formations he knew of that could be used. At this moment, he hovered in the void. With a thought, the Demortis and Immortal Slaughtering swords appeared in his hands. He wanted to set up a Demortis formation with these two immortal swords. Hum! Just as the two immortal swords appeared in the holy world, they suddenly began to tremble. Beams of light soared into the sky. Amidst the tremors, the two immortal swords attempted to break free from Murong Yu's control and fly away. At the same time, on the other side, not far from the Heart of Ice, beams of terrifying sword light soared into the sky, emitting terrifying light. It was a long sword similar to the Demortis and Immortal Slaughtering swords. At this moment, it was also trembling violently, as if it was about to soar into the sky and fly away. What's going on? Zhong Mingji and the others saw the abnormality and gathered around. Murong Yu shook his head, but his heart skipped a beat. Before this, the Demortis sword had also experienced such a situation. That was when the Immortal Slaughtering sword appeared. The two of them sensed each other. Now that both the Demortis and Immortal Slaughtering swords had such a strange phenomenon, did it mean that they had sensed another immortal sword? The remaining Immortal Slaying sword and Immortal Trapping sword of the four great immortal swords might be in the mysterious Frost secret realm? Legend had it that if the four great immortal swords were combined, the true appearance of the four great immortal swords would appear. That would definitely give Murong Yu a huge surprise. At the thought of this, Murong Yu was a little excited, because he had already fused with the Demortis sword. Because the Immortal Slaughtering sword had recognized him as its master, he could also sense the situation that Zhong Mingji and the others could not. In a place not far from the Ice Secret Realm, a sharp sword intense soared into the sky. That was where the powerful sacred weapon that Peng Huamao and the others found was. Could it be that the sacred weapon that Peng Huamao and the others found is one of the four great immortal swords? Murong Yu thought in his heart, but his eyes shone brightly. I sense something. Senior brothers, you guys guard here. I'll go and take a look. While speaking, without waiting for Zhong Mingji and the others to react, Murong Yu had already soared into the sky and flew in the direction of the sensing. Zhong Mingji and the others were speechless. Murong Yu was too anxious. 8th junior brother, 10th junior brother, you guys go and take a look. The rest of you guard here. You can't lose. Zhong Mingji immediately responded. Immediately, Hu Yininghao and Lu Xiankai soared into the sky and chased after Murong Yu. Murong Yu's speed was extremely fast. In an instant, he was far away from the Heart of Ice. As he got closer and closer to the other sword, the vibrations of the Demortis and Immortal Slaughtering swords became more intense. Murong Yu was almost unable to control it. At the same time, an extremely terrifying sword intent came from the front. Murong Yu sensed that the sword intent was extremely powerful. It was at least at the level of the Chaos Ancestral Artifact, or even higher. Whoosh! While walking, Murong Yu's heart suddenly flashed with an extremely strong sense of danger. Immediately, he reacted and moved horizontally in the void. Chi! Just as his figure disappeared from the spot, the original void was slashed apart. A long sword that emitted a terrifying sword intent appeared in the void. Clang! Clang! Even if it's not a supreme artifact, it has reached the level of a half-step supreme artifact. Sensing the terrifying sword intent emitted by the long sword, Murong Yu quickly retreated. However, at this moment, the Demortis and Immortal Slaughtering swords in Murong Yu's hands finally broke free from Murong Yu's restraint. They turned into two sword radiances and rushed toward the powerful long sword. Clang! Clang! Two crisp sounds of collisions were heard. In the blink of an eye, the three swords had clashed. In fact, it was the Demortis and Immortal Slaughtering swords that slashed at the other long sword. However, although they took the initiative to attack, Moronyu found that the long sword that was attacked by them stood motionless between heaven and earth, while the Demortis and Immortal Slaughtering swords were repelled. What's going on? Moronyu was suddenly stunned. When the Demortis and Immortal Slaughtering swords met, this did not happen. For a moment, Moronyu could not figure out whether the long sword was one of the four great immortal swords, or the sworn enemy of the four great immortal swords. Whoosh! Whoosh! After being repelled, the Demortis and Immortal Slaughtering swords seemed to be very angry. After a while, they turned into two golden lights and slashed at the other long sword. No matter how Moronyu controlled them, it was useless. Thus, Moronyu completely let go of the control of the two immortal swords. However, even so, the two immortal swords were no match for the third sword. In fact, the third long sword did not even fight back. It was constantly bombarded by the Demortis and Immortal Slaughtering swords. It only shook slightly when it was attacked, and the Demortis and Immortal Slaughtering swords were repelled. The gap between the two sides was too big. The Demortis and Immortal Slaughtering swords were no match for it at all. Moronyu did not make a move because he did not understand the situation. He just watched the scene from afar. At this time, Hu Yinninghao and Lu Xiankai also came over. Seeing this scene, they were also confused. Junior brother, what's going on? Hu Yinninghao looked at the three sacred weapons that were fighting with a puzzled face. Moronyu shook his head. He also wanted to know what was going on. That sword is so powerful. It's much more powerful than your two sacred weapons. Junior brother, let's join forces to suppress it. Hu Yinninghao said casually. At the same time, he stretched out his big hand and grabbed the third sword in the air. Moronyu wanted to remind him, but it was too late. Swoosh! Just as Hu Yinninghao stretched out his hand, the third sword suddenly stood up like a person. Then, as if it was being held by a person's hand, it swiftly slashed down towards Hu Yinninghao. Chi! A beam of sword light flashed and disappeared. At this moment, Hu Yinninghao's heart was suddenly enveloped by a layer of incomparably strong aura of death. He let out a strange cry and his body swayed, retreating rapidly. However, although he was fast, the sword was even faster. Just as he was dodging, the huge hand he had stretched out had already been shattered by the long sword. With a chi sound, one of Hu Yinninghao's arms was also chopped off. However, fortunately, he reacted quickly. Otherwise, his whole body would have been cut in half. Damn, what sacred weapon is that? So powerful? Hu Yinninghao said with lingering fear. Just now, if he hadn't been a little faster, he would have been killed directly. Senior brother, do you still want to suppress that sword? Moronyu asked with a smile. Hu Yinninghao's head was like a rattle drum. This time, the sword was only a punishment for him. If he dared to attack again, he would be dead once the sword went berserk. That long sword gave him an extremely terrifying feeling. Moreover, he also sensed that the attack, just now, was just a casual slash from the longsword. If it had used its full strength, he would have died without a doubt. Junior brother, this is your opportunity. I won't interfere with you. We'll just watch from the side. Hu Yinninghao laughed and pulled Lu Xiankai back a few steps, keeping a certain distance from Moronyu. Chapter 1600. While the three swords were entangled with each other, a large number of uninvited guests arrived outside the mysterious Frost Secret Realm. Vast and boundless, their chi and blood surged to the sky, and their auras spread out in all directions like stormy waves. If Moronyu were here, he would definitely discover that among these people, there were thousands of extremely dazzling power rays. At least, they were comparable to the power rays emitted by Peng Huamao, Zheng Rou, and the others. In other words, these people were extremely powerful, at least at the Chaos Ancestor Saint level. Moreover, these people were exuding an icy cold aura. It was obvious that they were cultivating ice attribute cultivation techniques or similar cultivation techniques. In this way, the identity of these people was clear. They must be from the Ice Snow sect. These people were the many experts of the Ice Snow sect. Because all the people of the Ice Snow sect in the mysterious Frost Secret Realm were killed in a short period of time, the Ice Snow sect dispatched tens of thousands of Chaos Ancestor Saint experts. Most of the others were Ancestor Saints, and there were very few Saint King Realm Saints. The group of people flew in the direction of the Heart of Ice. Tens of thousands of peerless experts, the Ice Snow sect was not afraid at all. Therefore, they were not afraid of any ambush and directly rushed forward. At this time, Ian Gaon was still fusing with the Heart of Ice. If he could not complete the fusion, he could not leave the mysterious Frost Secret Realm unless he gave up the fusion. But if he gave up this time, he would not be able to fuse again in the future. On the other side, the three immortal swords were still fighting. However, what was different from the beginning was that at first, it was the celestial slashing sword and the immortal slaughtering sword that launched a frenzied attack on the third sword, while the third sword let them attack and did not fight back. But now, the third sword unleashed its most violent attack. It was obvious it was superior. After the third sword launched its attack, the celestial slashing sword and the immortal slaughtering sword were suppressed and could only passively take a beating, and the light on their bodies was getting dimmer and dimmer. Obviously, they had consumed too much power, and the third sword maintained its original appearance. Murong Yu frowned slightly. Huiyan Yinghao and Lu Xiankai also returned to Murong Yu's side. Junior brother, the situation doesn't look good. Your two swords are definitely not a match for the other sword. As he spoke, Huiyan Yinghao focused most of his attention on the third sword. It was as if he was afraid that the sword would attack him. Huiyan Yinghao was truly afraid because the third sword definitely had the ability to kill him. Murong Yu nodded slightly. As the owner of the exterminating immortal sword and the killing immortal sword, he was clearer than Huiyan Yinghao. Moreover, he now knew the origin of the third sword. Immortal Trapping Sword. This was the third of the four great immortal swords, and its strength was infinitely close to that of a supreme weapon. However, as one of the four great immortal swords, they should get along well with each other. How could this happen? Murong Yu could feel from the exterminate immortal sword and kill immortal sword that the immortal trapping sword actually wanted to devour the two of them. Once the celestial slashing sword and the celestial slaughtering sword were devoured, the celestial trapping sword would definitely evolve into a supreme artifact. Murong Yu did not know what level it would reach if it devoured the last immortal slaying sword, but he was definitely not weak. As the owner of the exterminate immortal sword and the killing immortal sword, Murong Yu would definitely not let the immortal trapping sword devour his two immortal swords. On the contrary, he had to assist the exterminate immortal sword and the killing immortal sword to subdue the immortal trapping sword. Just as Murong Yu was about to make his move, he frowned slightly. Some of the formations he had set up in the Heart of Ice gave him an early warning that some people had already stepped into the formation, and there were quite a few of them. The people of the Ice sect had arrived. Senior brothers, you two go back first. The people of the Ice sect have arrived. Our main goal now is to protect 13th Senior Brother. If we can't do it here, I will give up, Murong Yu said to Huiyan Yinghao and Lu Xiankai in a deep voice. The two pondered for a moment, then both left. And Murong Yu also made his move. On the other hand, because the formations and restrictions set up by Murong Yu were very secretive, and because the Ice sect did not investigate carefully, many people entered. In the blink of an eye, many of them had entered the endless formations. These formations were all killing formations. From the moment the first person entered, these killing formations had already been activated. And so, tragedy befell the Ice sect. Rumble, like a chain reaction. The killing formations were constantly activated, erupting with terrifying power one after another, strangling the people of the Ice sect like a violent storm. Some of the weaker ones didn't even have time to react before they were killed. In just an instant, all of the holy king-level experts of the Ice sect who had entered the formation had fallen. About 40% of the Ancestor Sage disciples had also fallen. There was even an unlucky Chaos Ancestor Sage who was killed. They had fallen into a trap. Those from the Church of Ice were all elites. Their reactions were extremely fast. They reacted at the first moment. Therefore, the experts in the formation erupted with their strongest power, first protecting themselves, then attacking in all directions. The experts of the Sect of Ice who had yet to enter the formations also unleashed their strongest attacks, blasting forward in an attempt to raise the formations to the ground. Bang, bang, bang. Streaks of terrifying power continued to bombard him. Although the formations set up by Murong Yu were powerful, they still could not withstand the attacks of tens of thousands of Chaos Ancestor Sages of the Ice Sect. One formation after another was destroyed. At this rate, it would only take a day or two for these formations to be razed to the ground. But how could it be that easy? Kill. The Infernal Society also made their move at this time, and all of them had been hiding in the formations before. This sudden attack immediately caused the Ice Sect to suffer heavy losses. In less than a breath's time, hundreds of Chaos Ancestor Sages were killed. The Infernal Society members were all powerful, and it was a sneak attack. It was normal for each of them to kill 5 or 6 Chaos Ancestor Sages in a breath's time. However, 100 Chaos Ancestor Sages were only 1% of the peerless experts of the Ice Sect. Killing them would have no effect on the Ice Sect's strength. Courting death. Kill them. The Ice Sect was furious, and more terrifying power poured down. One formation after another was quickly destroyed. However, the Infernal Society members relied on their familiarity with the terrain and often moved away before the formations were destroyed. Therefore, no one was injured. But it was a tragedy for the Ice Sect. In the process, hundreds of Chaos Ancestor Sages died at their hands. If this continued, before they could even reach the Heart of Ice, their peerless experts would all be killed by the Unbroken Path disciples. But the Ice Sect members were not fools. They quickly adjusted. One by one, the experts gathered together, forming a huge group. In this way, the power of the Infernal Society members attacking them was divided among them. For a time, no one from the Ice Sect continued to die, but the formations were constantly being destroyed. Their speed of advance increased a lot. The combined power of nearly 10,000 peerless experts, as well as a large number of Ancestor Sages and Sage Kings, was extremely terrifying. It was almost as easy as crushing dry weeds. The formation set up by Murong Yu and the others could not stop them at all. Do your best to stop them, or at least slow them down. Zhong Mingji roared. As for Huyan Yinghao and the others, they were fighting with all their might. After risking their lives, the formation's speed of destruction slowed down. Naturally, the Ice Sect's speed of advance also slowed down. However, the Ice Sect seemed to be very anxious, constantly launching violent attacks. The Infernal Society members were having a hard time. If I were the Soul Sage, I would have killed them long ago. Huyan Yinghao roared. In fact, it was not only the Soul Sage. If they all had supreme weapons, it would be impossible for them to completely kill the Ice Sect members, but they could definitely make them wail and howl. It would be no problem at all to block their advance. Unfortunately, they did not have either of these. Now, they could only hope that Yin Gaohan could quickly integrate with the Ice Sect. As for Murong Yu, it was true that Murong Yu was powerful, but the Ice Snow Cult was simply too powerful. With his strength alone, there was nothing he could do. Time freeze, reverse time and space. On the other side, Murong Yu made his move. Waves of time power constantly bombarded the Immortal Trapping Sword. Suddenly, the Immortal Trapping Sword was constantly frozen. The Immortal Slashing Sword and the Immortal Slaughtering Sword seized this opportunity to launch the most violent attacks on the Immortal Trapping Sword. However, the gap between them was too big. Even so, they could not do anything to the Immortal Trapping Sword. The Immortal Trapping Sword was very angry. During this process, it desperately wanted to break through Murong Yu's blockade and kill Murong Yu. But how could Murong Yu give it this chance? Space imprisonment, time reversal. Time freeze. Murong Yu attacked again. The violent attacks fell on the immortal trapping sword, immediately trapping it for a moment. The immortal trapping sword had long been used to this and did not do anything, because it knew that Murong Yu could not do anything to it. Even if it was suspended in the void and was attacked by Murong Yu, the immortal slashing sword, and the immortal slaughtering sword, it would not be injured. However, the immortal trapping sword did not see that after this attack, Murong Yu's lips curled into a sneer. Hichu Luo Shu. Murong Yu roared in his heart. Hichu Luo Shu, which had long been hidden near the immortal trapping sword, suddenly opened its mouth and swallowed the 3 immortal swords in one gulp. This was Murong Yu's plan. Although the immortal trapping sword was powerful and had a certain level of intelligence, it was not a living creature and could not detect Murong Yu's plan. Moreover, most importantly, it stood motionless on the spot. This gave Murong Yu the opportunity to subdue it. Chapter 1601. If a celestial trapping sword was like a human, Murong Yu wouldn't dare to take it into the Hichu Luo Shu. He would just run away. Therefore, Murong Yu was able to take the celestial trapping sword partly because of luck. However, sometimes luck was also a part of strength. According to Peng Huamao and the others, they didn't dare to approach the celestial trapping sword at all. As long as they were within a certain distance, the celestial trapping sword would take the initiative to attack. With the strength of the celestial trapping sword, it could easily kill Murong Yu. Even Huining Hao was easily killed, let alone others. If it weren't for the celestial slashing sword and the celestial slaying sword entangling the celestial trapping sword, Murong Yu wouldn't have been able to get close to the celestial trapping sword, let alone subdue it. Swish! After the celestial trapping sword was taken into the Hichu Luo Shu, Murong Yu rushed in immediately. Chi! 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 As soon as Murong Yu entered, he saw the celestial trapping sword erupting with hundreds of millions of terrifying sword lights, as if it had gone crazy, constantly shattering the nearby void. At the same time, the angry celestial trapping sword wanted to break open the Hichu Luo Shu world and leave this place. If it was in a mysterious frost secret realm, Murong Yu couldn't do anything to the celestial trapping sword. But in the Hichu Luo Shu world, Murong Yu was the ruler. He sneered, and with a thought, the power of the Hichu Luo Shu had already been suppressed. Bang! The celestial trapping sword, which was originally suspended in the sky, was caught off guard and fell to the ground. It was directly suppressed. Of course, the celestial trapping sword wouldn't give in just like that. It was so angry that its sword body kept trembling, emitting sword lights that shattered the surrounding void. However, it couldn't break free from the suppression of the Hichu Luo Shu. It only had a little spiritual intelligence and couldn't communicate at all. Celestial slashing sword, celestial slaying sword, I'll leave it to you. If it doesn't submit, beat it until it does. Murong Yu felt that he couldn't collect the immortal trapping sword for a while, so he handed it over to the immortal exterminating sword and the immortal slaughtering sword. The 2 immortal swords let out a series of clanging sounds. Then, they both turned into a beam of sword light and pounced on the immortal trapping sword. At the same time, Murong Yu's figure flashed and disappeared from the spot. On the other side, no matter how powerful the Seamless Society was and how they were supported by tens of thousands of spell formations, they were still unable to do anything. However, the Church of Ice still had close to 10,000 peerless experts. Their strength had far surpassed that of the Infernal Agents. Therefore, even if the Infernal Society used all their strength, they still could not stop the Church of Ice's advance. By the time Murong Yu approached, 80% of the array formations had already been destroyed. Only the last 20% of the array was left. At this moment, the faces of Zhong Mingji and the others were extremely ugly. Behind the endless array, Yin Gaohan was still fusing with the heart of ice and snow. From the looks of it, the fusion wouldn't be completed in a few days, and they could only hold on for 3 days at most. Once 3 days were up, they would have no choice but to leave. Looking at this urgent scene, Murong, who was hidden in the void, frowned slightly. The Church of Ice had too many peerless experts. Even if he took action, he would not be able to turn the tide of the battle. However, in many cases, killing people did not require direct action. Murong's lips curled into a sneer. He immediately sat down cross-legged. The next moment, traces of soundless and colorless aura quickly gushed out of his body and spread forward. The pink morning. Now, Murong was not far from the battlefield. Because of the terrifying energy fluctuations constantly erupting from the great battle, and because of the mysterious frost realm, this void was not stable. Therefore, Murong didn't try to hide it, and unscrupulously sent the pink morning over. In the blink of an eye, the pink morning drowned the Church of Ice. Even those peerless experts did not notice. During this process, Murong did not inform the Infernal Society. If they all left, the Church of Ice would be suspicious. Moreover, even if the pink morning spread over, it was under Murong's control. Under Murong's control, the pink morning only wrapped around the Church of Ice and did not touch the Infernal Society. If they were poisoned, it would be a tragedy. The great battle continued, but the Church of Ice did not realize that they had unknowingly been poisoned. The pink morning had already invaded their souls. And as they were infected with more and more pink morning, the time for the pink morning to break out was getting closer and closer. Roar! After a while, in the Church of Ice, the skin of a male holy ruler of the holy ruler realm suddenly turned pink. His eyes were bloodshot as he looked at a female holy ruler beside him with lust. He growled in a low voice and directly pounced on her. The female holy ruler did not even think that someone beside her would attack her. Therefore, she was caught off guard by the poisoned holy ruler and fell to the ground. At the same time, her clothes were also shredded by the other party in the process. The female holy ruler was stunned, unable to react for a moment, and the male holy ruler who had pounced on her was about to force himself on her. Bang! At this moment, a huge fist shot over from the side, blasting the male saint ruler to death with a single punch. The female holy ruler finally reacted. Just as she was about to stand up and thank him, a figure pounced on her and pressed her to the ground again. And this person was the expert who had just killed the male holy ruler. The female holy ruler was immediately depressed. What was going on? Why were these people suddenly acting like they were beasts? In fact, these people really were beasts. Apart from these two holy rulers, many other people in other places also acted like beasts. It was obvious that the pink morning had broken out, and in just a few breaths of time, many holy rulers and ancestral sages had already broken out. The people who had broken out no longer attacked the spies in the formation, but instead began to search for the women beside them. At this moment, their rationality had all been shattered by their lust. What's going on? After discovering this scene, the peerless experts of the Ice Snow sect quickly killed a few people. But even more people had broken out. Oh no, we've been poisoned. Quickly retreat from here. A peerless expert suddenly recalled the incident of the true martial temple being plotted against. Didn't those people also act like beasts? It was exactly the same as now. Most importantly, even the primal chaos ancestor sages in the true martial sacred hall had fallen for it. If they continued to stay, they would definitely be affected as well. Therefore, they decided to temporarily retreat. However, Murong had created this atmosphere with great difficulty. So how could he allow them to leave just like that? Soulstorm, Soulstorm, Soulstorm. Murong rapidly approached the Ice Snow sect people and directly launched the most violent soul attack. The Ice Snow sect people were already in a state of panic because of the pink morning, who would still be on guard against assassinations. Therefore, Murong launched several major moves in a row. The souls of the holy rulers, ancestral sages, and even some unlucky chaos ancestral sages were directly blasted to pieces. In the blink of an eye, there were only a few thousand chaos ancestral sages left. Moreover, over 1,000 chaos ancestral sages were killed, leaving only about 8,000 chaos ancestral sages. This was a disastrous loss. However, Morongyu, who was hidden in the void, shook his head. Originally, according to his estimation, this sneak attack could at least wipe out half of their Chaos Ancestral Sages. But now, there are only a mere 1,000. Although Morongyu was not satisfied with his results, the Ice Snow sect and the spies were so shocked that their jaws dropped to the ground. This is the Soul Sage's attack. Damn, this is too strong. Huyan Inghao slapped his thigh, his face full of shock. The others were the same. They all knew that Morongyu was the Soul Sage, but when they saw Morongyu kill so many enemies with one move, they were all stunned. Even though Morongyu had killed many people from the Ice Snow sect with one move before. But now, these people were much stronger than before. In fact, this was the uniqueness of the Soul attack, because their light shields could only block the power of the attack, but not the power of the Soul. It's Morongyu. It must be Morongyu. The remaining 8,000 Chaos Ancestral Sages from the Ice Snow sect finally reacted. Immediately, someone roared with a furious expression. Back then, the true Martial Sacred Hall was also ambushed near the Mountain Sea Secret Realm. And Morongyu was also the Soul Sage. The Soul attack continued. Even though his identity was guessed, Morongyu did not show himself, but continued to attack. The spies also began their most powerful attack. And so, tragedy befell the Ice Snow sect. Although they had all gathered together to block Morongyu's attacks, they were still unable to do so. But how could a soul attack be so easy to block? Soul storms continued to bombard them, although they could not kill them. But they bombarded their souls to the point of almost shattering, and endless pain tortured them madly. It was to the extent that their strength was affected. Purple Radiant Sky Tower. Come out. Amidst the frenzied attacks, Morongyu suddenly summoned the Purple Radiant Sky Tower. A terrifying power instantly erupted. The power of a supreme artifact was on full display. Rumble, the Ice Snow sect reacted extremely quickly and attacked the Purple Radiant Sky Tower together. The 8,000 peerless experts easily blocked the attack of the Purple Light Heavenly Civ Tower and even sent it flying. The difference in strength between Morongyu and these 8,000 experts was simply too great. However, Morongyu did not expect the Purple Radiant Sky Tower to kill anyone, because that was a diversionary tactic. Soulstorm. Almost all of the Ice Snow sect's attention was attracted by the Purple Radiant Sky Tower. Naturally, they neglected to guard against soul attacks. Chapter 1602. Puff. The life force of thousands of primal chaos ancestral saints dissipated in an instant, and their bodies fell directly to the ground. Their souls had been obliterated, and they couldn't be more dead. Pay attention to the soul defense. Morongyu's supreme weapon can't do anything to us. The remaining 7,000 or so primal chaos ancestral saints turned pale. Each and every one of them roared with murderous intent. Naturally, they knew they had been tricked. Although Morongyu's supreme artifact was extremely powerful, it was still a supreme artifact. But they had thousands of primal chaos ancestral saints. Even if the supreme weapon was too powerful, as long as Morongyu wasn't supreme, he couldn't do anything to them. They only needed to blast out a random force, and the combined force of thousands of people could easily send the Purple Radiant Skyrop Tower flying. The people of the Ice Snow cult finally reacted. Immediately, each and every one of them filled their soul space to guard against Morongyu's soul attack. Hidden in the void, Morongyu couldn't help but shake his head with a dissatisfied look on his face. 1,000 primal chaos ancestral saints was still too few. Originally, he planned to kill at least 2,000 primal chaos ancestral saints. However, now that the Ice Snow cult had made preparations, it was impossible to kill a large number of their primal chaos ancestral saints. On the contrary, the peerless experts of the Ice Snow cult who were on guard might turn around and wipe out the infernal society in one fell swoop. If the people of the Ice Snow cult found out that Murong Yu wasn't satisfied with his achievement of killing a primal chaos ancestral saint with a single blow, would some of them vomit blood and die? Large-scale attack. Murong Yu's soul attack may be powerful, but there's still a distance to it. As long as we're out of his attack range, he won't be able to do anything to us, a peerless expert of the Ice Snow cult said in a deep voice. Thus, the Ice Snow cult launched a blanket attack. Moreover, only a very small portion of them attacked. These people's attack wasn't to kill Murong Yu, but to prevent Murong Yu from getting close to him. Once Murong Yu was discovered, he would be greeted with a terrifying attack from all the experts of the Ice Snow cult. What made Murong Yu the most depressed was that even though his soul had already broken through to the 5-star level, it was still not enough. However, there was still a huge gap between his attack range and that of a primal Chaos Ancestor Sage, especially a middle or high-level one. Murong Yu could only choose to retreat under the blanket attack of the peerless experts of the Ice Sect. The direct consequence of retreating was that his soul attack could no longer reach the people of the Church of Ice, unless he rushed in. But if he did, he would be jolted out of the void and be greeted by the terrifying attacks of the Ice Sect's 7,000 Chaos Ancestral Saints. Murong Yu was depressed. Zhong Mingji and the others were also depressed. Although Murong Yu's soul attack was powerful, it was useless if it couldn't be used. Now, Murong Yu could only rely on the Pink Death. However, the Church of Ice had also come to their senses. Every one of them was enveloped in layers of energy shields. The Pink Morning was unable to penetrate these energy shields, so it was unable to enter their bodies. Previously, the Church of Ice had a huge shield, but that shield was supported by the combined efforts of countless people. Naturally, it wasn't airtight. That was why the Pink Death could enter. Swish! Murong Yu shuttled through the void and appeared beside Zhong Mingji and the others. Everyone, I can no longer threaten the peerless experts of the Church of Ice. It's up to you now. Zhong Mingji and the others were speechless. No matter how powerful they were only a dozen people, while the Church of Ice had more than 7,000 peerless experts. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Now, they only hoped that Yin Gaohan could quickly merge with the Heart of Ice, and then they could leave this place. However, before that, they had to resist the attacks of the Church of Ice with all their might. Attack! Kill the spies! At this time, the people of the Church of Ice had already known the identity of Murong Yu and the others. However, they still chose to attack. A pinnacle force dared to kill all the disciples of a sacred ground. If it was any other occasion, they definitely wouldn't dare to do so. But now, there was no hesitation. One could imagine how precious the Heart of Ice was. As long as they obtained the Heart of Ice, they could create a supreme. When that time came, why would they be afraid of the spies? Rumble, the joint attack of more than 7,000 primal Chaos Ancestor Saints was extremely terrifying. The array that Murong Yu and the others had set up couldn't withstand it all. It was easily destroyed like breaking rotten wood. In just a few breaths of time, Murong Yu and the others were forced to retreat again and again. And half of the remaining formations had been destroyed. Only 1/10 of the original formations were left. And according to the current situation, this last line of defense would also be destroyed in a very short time. Little junior brother, don't you still have 1,000 primal Chaos Ancestor Saint-level fierce beasts? While resisting, Lu Bingxin suddenly asked Murong Yu. But as soon as the words came out, Lu Bingxin's face turned red. Zhong Mingji and the others also blushed. This time, Murong Yu's losses were even greater than theirs. After the formations that used primal Chaos Ancestor artifacts as the eyes and feet of the formations were destroyed, those artifacts naturally exploded as well. Just this alone cost Murong Yu a large number of primal Chaos Ancestor artifacts. And he also killed a large number of the Ice Snow Sect's experts. The total number of people killed by the spies was less than 1% of what Murong Yu had killed. Although Murong Yu looked relaxed and comfortable, he must have consumed a lot of energy, especially those soul attacks. And now, They wanted Murong Yu to summon peerless fierce beasts? As his senior brothers, they were ashamed. Murong Yu shook his head helplessly. I originally had 1,500 fierce beasts, but most of them died in the Sky Demon's secret realm. Now, there are only 100 of them. If it weren't for the Sky Demoness, 1,500 fierce beasts could at least flatten more than 2,000 primal chaos ancestor saints. But now, what was the use of 100 fierce beasts, even if they were all 5th rank primal chaos ancestor saints? These fierce beasts couldn't charge into the ranks of the Ice Snow Sect's peerless experts at all. Their long-range attacks couldn't break through the defenses either. However, Murong Yu still released 100 5th rank primal chaos ancestor saints and the strongest 6th rank primal chaos ancestor saint beasts. He ordered them to assist in the defense. In this way, Murong Yu and the others could relax a little. The formation they had set up would be able to last for a longer period of time. However, this was just a drop in the bucket. It didn't play an important role at all. It's a pity that Frostheart can't leave the mysterious realm of Frost. Otherwise, why would we have to fight them head-on? Murong Yu said gloomily after glancing at Frostheart behind him. These idiots from the Ice Snow Sect actually dared to kill us. It seems that we spies have been hiding for too long. The world has forgotten that we are a sacred ground. Even a stray cat or dog dares to attack us. Hu Yininghao's rage soared to the heavens as he spoke with murderous intent. It's time for us spies to make a comeback. Lu Xiankai also echoed. Hearing their words, Murong Yu couldn't help but feel a jolt in his heart. Hu Yininghao and Lu Xiankai's words indicated that the spies weren't just what they seemed on the surface. And if it was just the 18 of them, they couldn't fight against the other sacred grounds. Now, even the Ice Snow Sect, which wasn't a sacred ground, was suppressing them to the point that they had almost no power to fight back. Could it be that they relied on Yu Yangjia, or Master, or the 3 supreme being weapons in the treasury? Murong Yu pondered in his heart. However, he quickly denied his own thoughts. He felt that the spies weren't as simple as they seemed. There must be other forces in the spies. Therefore, Murong Yu looked at Zhong Mingji and the others with a puzzled gaze. Zhong Mingji couldn't help but smile. Junior brother, your realm is too high and you shouldn't know too much. However, your battle strength has already reached the level of a primal chaos ancestor sage, and even surpasses ordinary low-level ones. You can now come into contact with the true face of our spies. Murong Yu felt dizzy. He'd been in the spies for so long, but the spies he'd come into contact with weren't the true spies. Murong Yu was a little speechless, but he wasn't displeased. After all, his realm was really too low. It was possible that he couldn't even come into contact with that level. On the contrary, Murong Yu was more curious. He wanted to know the true strength of the spies. Junior brother, our spies have existed for as long as the other sacred grounds. In fact, we've existed much longer than them. Do you really think that we've lived for that long? Zhong Mingji said with a smile. Murong Yu suddenly understood. He'd always felt that something was wrong, but now he finally knew. Although these senior brothers of his had lived longer than him, they were definitely not like those old monsters. Relatively speaking, they were still very young. They definitely weren't the original disciples of the spies. They definitely had joined the spies later on, becoming their disciples. However, the spies had existed for a very long time. Although they didn't have many disciples, they still had some. In the sacred realm, they were undying and indestructible. They wouldn't die at all. Could it be that they'd all perished? That was impossible. However, if they hadn't perished, could they have left the spies? If not, then where had they gone? Zhong Mingji and the others were terrifyingly strong. If the spies of the spies were still alive, how terrifyingly strong would they be? When he thought of this, Murong Yu couldn't help but feel shocked. Junior brother, you must be curious as to where the seniors before us went. Yes, some of them have perished, but the vast majority of them are still alive. Zhong Mingji seemed to know what Murong Yu was thinking. Chapter 1603. How many disciples did the Infernal Society have after so many years? Moreover, The rules for recruiting disciples were completely different from those of the true martial sacred hall. The Infernal Society had very few disciples in each generation, but every one of them was a monstrous existence. If those people hadn't died, how much would they have grown by now? This was the true strength of the Infernal Society. This was also the reason why the Infernal Society could become one of the 10 great sacred lands, and even the leader of them. Murong dared to guarantee that the Infernal Society had the most peak experts among the sacred lands. When he thought of this, Murong couldn't help but feel a little excited. Only, where had all those people gone? Now, apart from their master, the Infernal Society's leader, were the 18 of them. As for the others, there wasn't a single elder or protector. At the very least, Murong had never heard of their existence. They've all left the Infernal Society. However, they're still disciples of the Infernal Society. As long as the Infernal Society is in danger, they'll step forward bravely. Zhong Mingji continued in a low voice. Murong frowned slightly, somewhat unable to make sense of this. Why had they left the Infernal Society? Since they'd left, why were they still members of the Infernal Society? Moreover, were they now? Their identities can be anyone. However, under normal circumstances, they won't act. Unless the Infernal Society has suffered a calamity. Moreover, if they're needed. Zhong Mingji's expression was somewhat gloomy. Everyone had self-esteem. The stronger one's self-esteem would be. They'd never thought of asking for help from those people at all. Moreover, even if they did ask for help, they wouldn't be able to quickly appear here. Even if they did appear here, it wouldn't be of much use. Unless they were supremes, who could kill a large number of primal chaos ancestor sages with a single slap. Otherwise, it would be like throwing a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood, unable to completely solve the problem. Junior brother, as long as you officially become a primal chaos ancestor sage, all of this will no longer be a secret. However, knowing it now won't do you any good. Zhong Mingji slowly explained when he saw Murong's puzzled expression. Murong instantly became depressed. Realm, another realm. Although he was depressed, he didn't continue asking. Wasn't it just the primal chaos ancestor saint realm? Soon, he reached it. Looking at the many peerless experts of the sect of ice outside, Murong frowned slightly. Even with the addition of 105th order primal chaos ancestor saint beasts to aid in the defense, the array that had been set up a long time ago was still quickly being destroyed. He retreated again and again. At this moment, there are only 1,000 formations left. Once these 1,000 array formations were destroyed, Murong and the others would have to escape from this place. Then they could only wait for death. Soulstorm. Soulstorm. Murong did not launch any other attacks. Instead, he continued to unleash soul attacks. However, the Church of Ice had long made preparations. During this process, only a few unlucky bastards were killed by Murong. Although the other people's souls had suffered injuries of varying degrees, none of them were killed. However, the Church of Ice was also extremely wary of Murong's soul attack, so they slowed down quite a bit. Otherwise, the last 1,000 formations would have been destroyed long ago. Bastard, as long as we destroy these formations, don't you dare try to snatch them from me. I'll crush Murong's balls with my own hands. A peerless expert from the Ice Snow sect said furiously, brimming with killing intent. It could be said that Murong alone was blocking their way forward. If it weren't for Murong, they would have succeeded long ago. Most importantly, Murong was only a saint ruler. This greatly embarrassed the peerless experts of the Church of Ice and made them incomparably furious. Isn't he a soul saint? Killing him like this is too easy for him. I'm going to extract his soul and burn it with saint fire for a cycle. Another peerless expert said with a towering rage. His anger towards Murong had exceeded Zhong Mingji and the others by 1,000,000,000 times. Junior brother, it seems that your ability to attract hatred is very strong. Lu Xiankai looked at Murong and smiled. Murong rolled his eyes and was quite speechless. Here, he wasn't the strongest, but he was the one who killed the most and contributed the most. Naturally, he would be hated by others. However, he didn't care. He wasn't afraid of a mere church of ice. Boom! At this moment, a terrifying aura came from behind Murong Yu like a violent storm, instantly engulfing heaven and earth. Murong Yu and the others, who were caught off guard, were almost sent flying by this terrifying aura. In shock, they turned their heads to look, only to see the heart of ice, which had been motionless all this time, erupt with a dazzling light. At the same time, an extremely cold aura swept out from all directions. That was Yin Gaohan's aura. Yin Gaohan's strength had broken through again. However, it seemed that he hadn't completely fused with the heart of ice, because the heart of ice was still there. But in this situation, it wouldn't take long for the fusion to be complete. It's the heart of ice. Someone is fusing with the heart of ice. A cry came from the Church of Ice. Before this, Murong Yu and the others had already used formations to conceal the heart of ice. This time, Yin Gaohan's breakthrough directly destroyed that formation with a violent force. That was why the Church of Ice discovered it. It was fine if they didn't discover it. The Church of Ice thought that Murong Yu and the others had failed, because they all knew how terrifying the heart of ice was. Even the Infernal Society couldn't get close to it. But now, they were all anxious and furious. Quick, we must kill them before they can fuse and snatch the heart of ice. At all costs. A person who seemed to be the leader of the Church of Ice shouted. Thus, the 7,000 peerless experts of the Church of Ice suddenly went berserk. Each one of them unleashed an even more violent attack than before. They used most of their strength to attack. Only a portion of their strength was left for defense. Bang, bang, bang. In just one round of attacks, 300 of the remaining 1,000 formations on Murong Yu's side were immediately destroyed. In the process, even a fifth-order primal chaos ancestor, saint-level beast, was destroyed. The remaining 100 beasts were all injured. On Murong Yu's side, Wuxin Shui and 5 or 6 others were also injured. Murong Yu and the others were relatively quick to react, so they weren't injured. But now, there were less than 700 formations left. As long as the Church of Ice launched another round of attacks, these formations would be destroyed. Soul Storm. Soul Storm. Murong Yu was furious. The soul sea within a radius of 20 million miles in his soul space began to churn violently. Streams of soul power gushed out like a torrent, ferociously strangling the members of the Church of Ice. Puff, puff, puff. A large number of peerless experts fell on the Church of Ice's side. However, they didn't care about anything else. They didn't care about Murong Yu's terrifying soul attack at all. They didn't defend at all. They just unleashed their strongest attacks on Murong Yu's side. After the Church of Ice lost another 1,000 peerless experts, Murong Yu and the others were forced to the vicinity of the Heart of Ice. This was because the Heart of Ice was convinced by Murong Yu, and the extreme cold it emitted no longer hurt Murong Yu and the others. Now, there was only one formation left, and Murong Yu and the others brought it with them. Murong Yu was fine. After being injured, his life force frantically rushed out. Soon, he recovered from his injuries. But Lu Xiankai and the others weren't so lucky. At this moment, they all looked like they were covered in blood. Because Murong Yu couldn't spare any time to heal them. Because he was attacking the many experts of the Church of Ice with all his strength. The best defense was offense. At this moment, Murong Yu perfectly interpreted the meaning of this sentence. However, in the end, they were outnumbered. Although Murong Yu's attacks could kill some experts of the Church of Ice, the final victory was very likely to belong to the Church of Ice. Is there only one last formation left? We can't withstand a round of attacks from the Church of Ice at all. The faces of the infernal sect were gloomy. Senior brothers, you should all enter Hichu Luoshu first. Even if we can't get the Heart of Ice this time, as long as we're still here, we can still take it back. Murong Yu said to Zhong Mingji and the others while attacking. At this moment, only 40 to 50 of Murong Yu's 100 beasts had fallen. It was a heavy loss. If Yin Gaohan could fuse with the Heart of Ice, these losses wouldn't be much. But if Yin Gaohan couldn't fuse with the Heart of Ice in the end, the loss would be huge. Senior brothers, you should leave first. I can now control part of the Heart of Ice's ability and can resist the attacks of the Church of Ice. If things don't turn out well, I will leave immediately." In Gaohan's firm voice sounded. Okay. Zhong Mingji and the others didn't hesitate and immediately entered Hichu Luoshu one by one. As for Murongyu, he had already collected all the remaining vicious beasts. Then, with a swoosh, he directly teleported away. The moment Hichu Luoshu teleported away, the last formation was also destroyed by the Church of Ice. However, the Church of Ice only had about 5,000 peerless experts at this time, less than 6,000. Nearly half of the peerless experts had fallen. However, if they could get the Heart of Ice, they could still bear this loss. But if they couldn't get the Heart of Ice, the loss this time would make it impossible for them to recover to their peak strength for countless eras. Kill him. Seeing that Yin Gaoan was still in the Heart of Ice, the leader of the Church of Ice immediately ordered the attack. At this moment, Murongyu and the others were watching all this from a distance, their hearts in their mouths. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.